Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dan Garodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Welcome to today's review session of the City Planning Commission. Today's date is August the 11th, 2025. We are joined today by Vice Chair Knuckles, Commissioners Benjamin, Dweck, Gold, Goodrich, Kermani, Marin, Osorio, and Rampersad. Welcome and thanks to all of you. Before we get to today's agenda, I just want to cover some recent news related to the Department of City Planning. I'm very glad to report that the City Council's Land Use Committee and Zoning Subcommittee both voted unanimously last week in favor of the Midtown South Mixed Use Plan. This transformative proposal will provide more flexible, up-to-date zoning to enable a more vibrant 24/7 neighborhood with a mix of commercial and manufacturing businesses alongside housing. It would allow for over 9,500 new homes, of which over 2,800 would be permanently income-restricted affordable. This plan marks a few notable firsts. It's the first time we're requiring affordable housing through mandatory inclusionary housing in Midtown, allowing New Yorkers from all incomes to live in some of the most centrally located parts of the city. And it's the first time that we're going to be using the R11 and R12 zoning districts to allow even more housing after successfully advocating to lift the FAR cap in Albany and the passage of City of Yes for housing to give us these tools. Alongside the new homes, the plan features significant investments in local infrastructure and amenities, including the completion of the transformative Broadway Vision Plan, a 34th Street busway, $13.5 million for a full renovation of McCaffrey Playground, and more. The plan will support the garment and fashion industry with $50 million to develop permanent space for the industry, $1.8 million in public and private funding for the Council of Fashion Designers of America Local Production Fund pilot, and the creation of Midtown Made, a campaign to elevate local designers, manufacturers, and creative entrepreneurs. I want to thank Speaker Adams, Chairs Salamanca and Riley, the City Council committees, and especially Council members Eric Botcher and Keith Powers for their support and their leadership on this vital plan. I'd also like to thank all of the New Yorkers who spoke with the Department of City Planning about the Manhattan Plan last weekend at the 97th Street Green Market and the East Midtown Summer Streets. This ambitious initiative looks to tackle Manhattan's deep housing shortage by adding 100,000 new homes to the borough over the next decade. The Midtown South Mixed-Use Plan is an important down payment, but there's much more work to do to make Manhattan a place where New Yorkers of all income levels can live. If you'd like to get involved, please visit manhattanplan.nyc and keep an eye out for more events, including our tabling this Saturday at the Farmers Market on 110th Street and Manhattan Avenue. Turning to today's agenda, we're going to begin with a special presentation on the design and progress of the borough-based jails by the Department of Design and Construction and Transformative Reform Group. From there, our first new proposal for today is a mixed-use development at 395 Flatbush Avenue Extension in downtown Brooklyn, proposed by the New York City Departments of Housing Preservation and Development, HPD, Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, and Health and Mental Hygiene, DOH-MH. This 72-story tower would include over 1,200 new homes, of which between 325 and 379 would be income-restricted affordable. The building would also feature a mix of ground floor retail and community facility space, an entrance to the B, Q, and R trains at the DeKalb Avenue subway station, and nearly 5,000 square feet of open public space. This proposal is the first one to implement aspects of the Department of City Planning's downtown Brooklyn and Fort Greene EDS and MEDS framework to guide this area's growth as a vibrant 24/7 neighborhood. On the heels of the City Council Committee's vote for the Midtown South Mixed-Use Plan, this plan is the third land use application and the first in Brooklyn to enter public review that would use new high-density zoning districts enabled by City of Yes for housing opportunity. These districts require mandatory inclusionary housing and are powerful new tools to address New York City's housing shortage. This site is also near neighborhood amenities like Fort Greene Park, Long Island University, Fulton Mall, Brooklyn Paramount, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and the Barclay Center at Atlantic Terminal. Staying in Brooklyn, we'll head south to Coney Island for a special permit for the Seaside Park and Community Arts Center. This application by the New York City Economic Development Corporation, DCAS, and Seaside Park, LLC, seeks approval for the ongoing use of the Seaside Park Community Arts Center for a 10-year period. The proposal also includes additional public open space adjacent to the existing Seaside Park. The Commission will next learn about a mixed-use building at 3301 11th Street in Ravenswood, Queens. This project would create over 250 new homes, of which nearly 80 would be income-restricted affordable. It would also include retail space, as well as nonprofit office space and warehousing for food distribution for the Catholic Medical Mission Board. The site is close to Socrates Sculpture Park, Rainey Park, the Noguchi Museum, and the Q103 and 104 bus stops. We will also review City Council modifications to mixed-use developments at 4211 30th Avenue in Astoria, Queens, 47 Hall Street in Wallabout, Brooklyn, and 236 Gold Street in Bridge Plaza, Brooklyn. From there, we will go over potential City Planning Commission modifications to the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan, which will be up for a vote before us this Wednesday. Finally, we will hold post-hearing follow-ups to review and discuss testimony received on several proposals, including the One LIC Neighborhood Plan, an ambitious proposal to bring new homes, jobs, and infrastructure investments to an underutilized stretch of Long Island City, Queens. This plan would set the stage for around 14,700 new homes, including 4,000 permanently income-restricted affordable through mandatory inclusionary housing across a 54-block area. This would be the most amount of housing generated by a neighborhood-specific rezoning in at least 25 years, and likely the most since the creation of the modern zoning resolution in 1961. One LIC would also significantly boost commercial and manufacturing capacity in the industrial sub-area, facilitating around 14,400 more jobs, resulting in a true live-work community where New Yorkers can find opportunity close to home. It also invests significantly in the public realm, such as by creating a continuous, resilient public waterfront along the East River that will connect Gantry Plaza State Park with Queensbridge Park on the other side. So with that, by way of introduction, Madam Secretary, floor is yours, and thanks to everybody for joining us today.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City Planning Commission Review Session for Monday, August 11th, 2025. The time is 1:08 p.m. and a quorum is present. We'll start today's session with a special presentation on the Borough-Based Jails Program. We are joined today by the Department of Design and Construction, DDC, and the Leon D. DeMattis Construction Corporation.
Great, welcome. Nice to have you here with us. Just make sure that microphone is on and you can go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon. My name is Freddy Hernandez and I am the Assistant Commissioner for the NYC DDC. On behalf of the Borough-Based Jails team, we are happy to be back here before the Commission today. So here's an outline of our agenda. We'll provide a program-wide update, and the Queens Facility team will provide an update on their progress. As a reminder, the BBJ program will be designed as a state-of-the-art facilities that foster safety and well-being for both peoples in custody and staff. The BBJ facilities will be located in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens boroughs. Now that we have the design build team awarded, today we're going to be presenting the Queens facility in line with our commitment to the Commission. The team here today has representatives from the DDC, our program management consultant, the AECOM Hill Joint Venture, or the AHAV, DOC, CHS, MOCJ, as well as City Hall, and our design builder, the DeMattis-led DB team. I'll now pass it off to Lauren Messier from the AECOM Hill Joint Venture. She's our outreach manager to discuss program-wide community engagement. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Freddie. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Messier. As Freddie's just said, I'm the outreach manager for the Borough-Based Jails Program. Extensive engagement with communities and stakeholders in each of the 4 boroughs. Oh, I forgot to change my slides. Let's catch up. Extensive engagement with communities and stakeholders in each of the 4 boroughs as a core component of our program. In addition to the broader team's ongoing collaborative work with city agencies and service providers, our team leads direct and proactive engagement with elected officials, community boards, justice advocates, and community advisory groups. Those typically consist of community leaders, community organizations, as well as the residents and businesses immediately surrounding the sites who are most impacted by the project. We also have dedicated staff embedded at each one of the sites to keep communities informed of day-to-day progress. To date, we have held nearly 300 meetings and hands-on workshops with a variety of different groups. Engagement with our elected officials, community boards, and advisory groups will continue through construction completion in all of the boroughs. We are absolutely committed to that. In addition, we are currently in the process of holding design workshops with the communities in the Bronx, Manhattan, and Queens. We've already completed a series of workshops with Brooklyn. Our public design workshops are open to the public, so anyone can participate, and we offer both in-person as well as online options for participation. We do show communities and the general public images of some of the interior secure spaces, like the cells and the day rooms, because folks are really curious to see what those are going to look like. But the primary focus of our workshop is to solicit community feedback on the public-facing aspects of these facilities. So, for example, how the architecture fits in with the surrounding context of the community, how folks might best use the streetscapes and public plazas in the areas around the buildings, and how the design team can make the interior public lobby and the public visiting spaces feel more welcoming and inviting for all users. So actually on that note, Frank, would you like to come up and tell us a little bit about how your team is developing the facility for Queens?
Great. Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon. I'm Frank Green. I'm the lead architect from STV, the prime for this project. Oops, I have to press buttons, don't I? So as Lauren was talking about, these are where we stand in terms of our engagements. We've had quite a number of engagements with electeds, with community design workshops, and with community boards, with more to come, with upcoming meetings with community design workshops and community boards between now and the completion of the design. These three bars show the parallel schedules that we're tracking. Top one is the community design input process. Those first two workshops have taken place, with a third one coming up next month. Design, we just passed a major milestone with PDC with approval of our concept and authorization to proceed to preliminaries. And then the third is the construction timeframe, with early works about to commence on site. And you'll notice completion 2031. So the guiding principles for our effort, and that are really defining this project, is very much capturing a generational shift in care and custody of people in custody, and bringing them closer to family, closer to their communities, closer to services that'll help to create positive outcomes. Our major goal is a normalized experience for people both inside the facility, in custody, and staff working there, but also for pedestrians and neighbors who are outside the building, who see it, who pass by it, who use the spaces around the building. This is a state-of-the-art, high-performance building that meets all industry benchmarks today, and it will be viewed as a civic asset, and certainly by the city, but also by the community. We're seeking to provide an exceptional design through collaboration, both within our very diverse and many layered team, but also in collaboration with the client and the city group, and with neighborhood organizations. So a very brief overview of the design, and we'd be happy to dig in at any level you'd like to when we get to Q's and A's after this. So the site is located in the very center of Queens, geographically convenient to all parts of the borough. You'll see the image on the left. The site is bounded by avenues, boulevards, expressways, turnpikes, and parkways. I think I got all of them. It has important neighborhoods outside those boundaries, the Forest Hills, Kew Gardens, Briarwood, and Kew Gardens Hills. So it's sharply defined as a civic precinct by that road network and surrounded by residential neighborhoods. It happens to sit on the high ground overlooking the watershed of Corona Park and Flushing Meadow. The site itself is quite open and with long view visibility from all sides, and the building will be a major landmark in the district. This is a site plan that shows the existing Borough Hall, Queens Criminal Court, and the parking garage that was built as all in white as Phase 1, and shows in our site that on the eastern side of the site, that blue shape, shows the transit access, subway, E&F right there, numerous bus stops in the vicinity, and even a Long Island Railroad stop nearby. When the site is infilled with our new building, it'll reinforce an existing pedestrian network that goes through the site, connecting across to Briarwood, and our aim is to reinforce that pedestrian experience with the landscape treatment. This is the zoning envelope from the ULURP. It's a 195-foot tall building with setbacks along 126th Street and 132nd Street. 765,000 gross square feet of zoning area. These are some of the major design moves in carving away and shaping that zoning envelope. You see top left is deep incisions into the building to bring daylight into the interior and to see that as many spaces as possible have direct access to sunlight and views. Top right is showing the stepping down of the 3 towers that define the massing of the building, reducing bulk and scale. The bottom left shows the extension of the park-like setting of the Queens Civic Center onto our site, and then bottom right shows the extension of the language of street wall scaled elements into our building, again helping to bring down mass and scale. This is a stacking diagram showing the basic building organization, 3 towers, each side of a central spine. This building is unique from the other 3 buildings in the borough-based jail program in 2 aspects. One is that this contains all the women that are in the New York City detention system. All the women awaiting trial will be in this building. So you see the dark blue is the men's housing units, the light blue is the women's housing units. They're completely separated in their movement through the building. They don't see each other. They don't share spaces in daily operations. Those towers sit on top of the green podium of program space and services, and the first floor has public lobby and entry points, but also does not have community space. That's the other unique feature. The community space was provided in the Phase 1 parking garage, so it already exists on the site. Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom Rowe, principal in charge for Michael Graves and Associates. We're responsible for the exterior design of the building as well as the staff and main public lobbies. We'll start with an aerial of the Borough Hall campus. This shows it with the proposed building in place. Just to orient you, the Borough Hall is down on the lower left of the slide. Queens Boulevard runs diagonally through past that. The criminal courts building, then in the DA wing, where this connection to the new building is envisioned, and the Family Justice Center, as well as on the other side, on the left-hand side of the page, the community facility and parking garage. The main entrance is set up on axis with 82nd Avenue, connecting Queens Boulevard with Main Plaza in front of the new main entrance. This is a aerial perspective, really flat elevation that starts to show the main elements of the building. We wanted to keep the building as clear, the organization as clear as possible, break down the scale of the building, and reinforce the idea of a campus, or really that this is a campus at ground level, and reinforce that pedestrian experience that Frank talked about. To do that, we've developed really broken the building down into 3 major components. The bottom 3 to 4 floors is the podium, which contains all the program spaces of the building, support spaces, things like admissions, main lobby, and things like that. The second part is the towers, which contain the cells and the population, as well as a continuous spine, glass-clad spine that unifies the design and connects all of these different pieces together, both building systems as well as building circulation. Here's a more detail of how the facades are composed. This is the main entrance facade in the center. Top right is the facades at the towers, showing the way that the windows are following the groupings of the cells. Bottom right is a cutaway section showing the entrance to the main entrance to the facility. Top left is the glass-clad, both transparent and translucent glazing for the spine, and then bottom left is the exterior recreation areas adjacent to each housing unit. This is a perspective view from the intersection, roughly the intersection of Queens Boulevard and 82nd Avenue, showing the main entrance and showing how that connection is made back to the back to the city. This is a close-in depiction of the main entrance. Again, we have overlapping scales. We have a large scale that corresponds to the size of the building and its position within the campus, and then a smaller scale with a canopy to keep people dry and to provide a more pedestrian scale experience for the entry. You also see, Joni will talk about this more, but see the way that the main plaza really is set back and engages the building at the ground level. This is the main lobby, which is directly opposite the image we just showed. So this shows a little bit. We're really trying to curb the institutional nature and feeling of these spaces. It's meant to be family oriented and really to accommodate a wide range of visitors and from families to attorneys, to children, and that is one thing we want to make sure that we connect all the way through the project. This is a picture showing. This is from right in back of the Queensborough Hall, right in back of the common the meeting space. This shows the main entrance to the right and the staff entrance to the left. This is the elevation from Van Wyck Expressway. You'll notice that this is a little bit taller, as in there's one extra floor on this facade due to the slope in the site. The other, we continue the theme of breaking these housing units and the towers apart, emphasized by the glass spine. Also on this facade, you'll notice that here's where to the right-hand side at the base is where the main parking entrance is. To the left-hand side is where the sally port and loading dock is. Here's a slide from the Hoover Avenue Bridge, showing the pedestrian bridge in the foreground. These are the north and south elevations, showing again in kind of a dramatic way the way this buffers the Van Wyck Expressway from the green of the campus, from either side of the building. Joni will talk a little bit more about public realm and landscape.
Thank you, Tom. I'm Joni Fu of Fu Wilmers Design. I will take you through public realm design and landscape. Our goal is really to extend the Borough Hall Park, centered around the civic campus, to our site. And here you see the park in relationship to the rest of the campus, 82nd Avenue and our building. We have two pedestrian-only passageway to the north and south of our building between the existing buildings. If you're coming, this is again campus-wide map. If you're coming by public transit, subway is at the lower left-hand corner on Queens Boulevard. There are several bus stations along Queens Boulevard. One would arrive either on 82nd Avenue or Union Turnpike to the front of our building. Our intent is really to complete the pedestrian network for the campus, which is in dark blue here, relating to the building entrances and the pedestrian entrances, which is primarily at the front of the building. Closer in here, you see adjacent to the building, we have two street frontages, 122nd Street and 132nd Street, highlighted in yellow. As I mentioned, a lot of the pedestrian activity is at the front of the building. Front entrance is directly off 82nd Street. Staff entrance and the community entrances and parking garage entrance are off 126th Street, directly across the park from Borough Hall. Vehicular entrances are all along 132nd Street, so there is no conflicts between pedestrian and vehicular circulation. Here on the site plan, you can clearly see the spaces defined, front plaza, a generous front plaza at the main entrance, and pedestrian passageway in a landscape and garden-like environment, and 132nd Street at the back on top of the page. So we will take a quick walk around the building. This is the 82nd Avenue entrance to the front building. To the front of the building, here's staff entrance. If you're coming across the park, looking back at the staff entrance in the Borough Hall Park again. This is the community passageway between our building and the parking garage, and 132nd Street with a view of the Briarwood pedestrian bridge. Coming off the bridge, you would have a landing park nearby the courthouse, and coming around the landing, bridge landing, you would enter this courthouse passageway looking towards Borough Hall Park at the end there, and coming around to the front of the building again with a very generous planting bed. All the security elements of the facility are carefully integrated into the streetscape. We have anti-ram walls, knee walls, planters, whatnot, and bollards are only used intermittently and where necessary. And the street lights and street furniture are DOT and DEP approved. Colors are very neutral and understated to work with the architecture. And landscape is low maintenance and native plants. Green infrastructure and sustainability is considered throughout the design. We will end with a view, the main entrance view here. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us and for your follow-up to share the design elements with the Commission. We appreciate it. I see there are a bunch of questions, so I'm going to go to those in 1 second. Let me just start with just one from me, and it relates to the use of space right in front of the building. I think this is a question for you. Can you talk about how much seating you anticipate out front, how that integrates in with the park, and how it integrates in with the activities that are ongoing at Borough Hall?
So at the back of the Borough Hall is this generous park, and then we're divided from the park by 126th Street. So 126th Street is actually streetscape per DOT and standards with street trees and in tree pits, and in the instead of bollards there, we have some knee walls, and some benches are mounted on the knee walls, facing, you would be sitting facing the sidewalk. So that is there's some seating underneath the trees, which you can't see right there. And then around the two planters, they are seats mounted on that as well.
Do you anticipate that the primary use of those seats will be people who are visiting and using this facility, or do you think that they will be more, are they designed to be more broadly used for, people working in Borough Hall or anywhere else in the neighborhood?
There are some seating in the existing Borough Hall Park, but not a lot. So the seating is probably more for people waiting or coming and going to our building. That's why they are sort of focused near the entranceway. We do also have seating in the community passageway between the staff entrance and the community space. There's specifically seating to address the community use there, and less so at other places, because that's where we imagine most people would gather.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Rampersad.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. I want to start for one correction. That rendering with Hoover Bridge, the Van Wyck, is always a parking lot. That's probably a view taken at 6 a.m. in the morning or something like that. Three things real quick. What other program changes have happened since the last time this was shown to us, in terms of the number of beds have changed, or has there been change to building height? And someone walk us through that. And also, with some of the renderings you've shown about the outdoor, can you also walk us through the lighting? Because between the buildings, it seemed like, I don't know if the paths are lit, if someone could talk to that. And the last question was, in terms of, talk a little bit more about the construction timeline, when you expect to be in the ground, up, topping out, so forth. I don't know who to direct that to. It's a big team here.
I was going to do number of beds.
Yes, all right. So just to clarify, your first question about the any sort of program changes since the last presentation. So our last presentation to the commission, my name is Taylor Wolfson-Ospen. Nice to be here. So our last presentation to the commission back in June was for the Bronx facility. There are some programmatic differences between the Bronx and the Queens facility in that they have the same number of beds, both have 1040, but the Queens facility does have women's, as mentioned, which the Bronx facility does not. But other than that, there have been no changes in terms of what was approved by the Euler envelope back in 2019.
So in terms of lighting, 132nd and 126th Street, we're using DOT standard street lights. In the front main plaza area, we will have some tall pedestrian poles, and we also have lighting for the 3 flag poles. The pedestrian passageway, we're using building-mounted lights. If something like Rockefeller Center, you can see they're building-mounted, is sort of above the first floor. And the reason for that is we want to save the precious pathway or sidewalk space, so that it's well lit, but it doesn't take up the ground plane. So the all surrounding the site lighting is considered.
When you say well lit, even during the winter time, as well lit, when you did your, calculations, it was based upon?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Alex DeMattis, Executive Vice President, DeMattis Construction. We are the design builder responsible for delivering this project as well as constructing it. To your question about timeline, as you saw in one of the earlier slides, we are in this Phase 1 design period up until the first quarter of 2027, of which when construction will commence, and then we are scheduled to substantially complete in the third quarter of 2031 on the Queens facility.
And during this time, will you be going back and forth to local civics and community boards? Because my last question to that was, I know you had feedback from the borough president, the DA's office. I'm curious of what that feedback was and how it was applied to this design.
Yeah, so as mentioned early on between Lauren and Frank with our early community workshops and community board presentations, we actually have our 3rd workshop scheduled for next month in September. So what we do is it's a very interactive and collaborative approach with receiving the feedback, kind of relaying it back to the community in the follow-up meeting, showing what we heard, showing how we were able to integrate to the best of our ability, what ideas and thoughts that came out, where we can improve, where we could elaborate a little bit more. And it's continuing on for another year or so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, this will be the only location where females are incarcerated in the city of New York?
Yes, this is the only borough-based jail where there are intended to be women held.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Commissioner Benjamin.
Hi, my question is a follow-up to the Vice Chair's question about the women in detention. One of the issues in the past, and that kind of led to where we are today, was the difficulties with getting people from one detention center to courts in different locations. So if all of the women are going to be in this location, if a particular woman has a court date in the Bronx, how is that going to be accomplished with detainees who may have court appointments in the Bronx, in Manhattan, in Staten Island, and in Brooklyn? And where does it take place in this plan?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Maldonado, and I represent the Department of Correction today. To answer your question, ma'am, we will still have to transport individuals, female detainees, as well as individuals who are in our special considerations housing, who will be centralized in that Queens facility. In the early development of this program, the number of female detainees was much smaller than the male population. So in order to centralize and really focus and hone in on the therapeutic environment for those females, we decided to centralize them in the Queens facility. So we will have to leverage transportation for those individuals in custody, just as we do now. But again, it's a much lower number than the male population.
Right, but there had always been a problem of getting them to court on time and of what time they had to get up in order to begin their journeys. So where is that Sally Port for detainees going to be in this plan?
I'm going to turn it over to the designer.
Thanks, Alex. That was actually, a great question. One of the things that we started, because we knew that this building was serving 4 locations outside its own footprint, that we needed to make sure that the throughput on the Sallyport area was very, very efficient. So early on we got approval from city planning to add a second door on 132nd Street. So there's actually a drive-through Sallyport that, I don't know if that's going to work, but, oh, that's right, there you go. Okay, perfect. So vehicles drive in one way, out the other way, and so that you can stack and load. And so you could have 4 or 5 vehicles inside the Sallyport loading the women to the different locations, and then open the door and they all head out. So solving our throughput issue here was really important to the early planning. Secondly, simply being here as opposed to being on Rikers Island is going to make it that much more convenient to get access, because Rikers Island has so many checkpoints to get on and off the island. So it'll be better.
Well, that's what we're planning for. And my second question, I'd still like to know where that, not just the loading on the buses, but where within the facility, on the presumably on the first floor, the both intake when detainees come back from their court dates and before they leave, when they are assembled and whatever administrative work is done to make sure that the right prisoners, the right detainees are at the right place at the right time on the right bus.
It's extraordinarily complicated, what you just mentioned. It's what we've spent the last 18 months sorting out with Department of Corrections. And it's doubly complicated because you have men and women in those same streams and they can't touch, they can't see each other. So we've developed a throughput piece on that, and we're actually in pretty good shape right now. Alex, I don't know, I'm speaking for us, but I think we've got it sorted, because you're right, in and out are both very complicated. And, and as well as the walking across the bridge into the Queens Courthouse. So we've got all these different streams, and I think we've
And
solved it, but I'll let
And the
Alex.
officers themselves who have to have access to this whole area, but not, others can't leave.
Right.
And the reason I ask in part is because my father was a correction officer who worked at this facility when it first opened in the 60s.
Right.
So I knew some of the problems with the old facility,
Right.
and in fact had spent some time in it, so I'm curious how you're going to address those issues.
Very different building.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, it is, 70 years, 60
Alex?
years later.
Yeah.
I think, again, circulation planning is one thing that we are really focusing on with our teamwork here. But I think one unique feature of the borough-based jails that's different than Rikers Island or QDC, where your father worked, is that there's both an admissions area, just solely focused on the new admissions and people coming into custody, where we centralize those, the medical services and therapeutic services for specifically people coming into custody for the first time. And then we separated that out from our transportation area. So individuals going to court or intra-facility transfers, those individuals go to a separate area. So right now, for example, if you come into any of our new admission facilities, that's kind of jumbled a little bit. So here we've separated out. So that should also help streamline that circulation process.
Thank you very much. And have the court officers, as opposed to the corrections officers, been involved in this plan, just so that they know how people are coming and what the possible constraints of the system are, so that they can plan the intake on the court side?
I think conversation is continuing, but I will say that our community engagement team is focused on not only engaging the community, but also all of the other agencies that are in this space. So the DA's offices, the court offices, the judges, exactly right. So we work all together. We try to keep everyone as informed as possible, including NYPD, et cetera. So, again, conversations continue to evolve as the building progresses. So I'm sure that those conversations will continue to happen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Benjamin. Next up, Commissioner Goodridge and Osorio, and then we are going to move on. Commissioner.
Just this May, Mayor Adams stated that he's exploring a new initiative to abandon this plan and instead use the space for residential housing. What have you and your agencies heard about that, and what's the update? There's a series of articles about this, so.
The Department of Design and Construction is, the direction has not changed and is planning to move forward with the borough-based jail facility program as is. We do have folks from City Hall here, so if there's anything that they would like to add, otherwise, that is all we can say on the matter.
So for this folks from City Hall, what is?
Hi, Elizabeth Matamoros from the Mayor's Office. We don't have anything to add at this point, but if there are any changes in direction, we will come back to the Commission.
So there is no plan to abandon this for housing?
We have continuously been evaluating all of the plans, like all possibilities for these lands, but at this point, we are moving forward with the borough-based jails.
Okay. My other question is, the Rikers population is currently larger than this plan. As of last year, it was about 2,000, and this plan calls for a little bit over 1,000. Where will the remaining inmates go?
So we are working with our partner agencies and the city administration to employ decarceration efforts, including ATIs and other ways to lower our population. That being said, the entire borough-based jail program has about 4,100 beds, in addition to approximately 350 outposted therapeutic beds. So by the time that we are ready to go online with these buildings, we do hope that the population decreases.
Okay, and then what if it doesn't? Where would those remaining people go?
I think it's a little too early to say because we are, again, working with our sister and brother agencies, our partner agencies, to, again, lower the population. Currently, the department still has well over close to 800 individuals from the state that are currently state custody individuals. So we're working on that right now to lower that population, and we'll continue to lower our population so we can successfully fill the borough-based jails.
Alex, if you don't mind me jumping in. Hi, everybody. My name is Q Amiri from the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. Sorry. My apologies for not being able to be there in person, and my camera's off also, my apologies. Just adding to what Alex said, conversations and discussions are still in progress, but also at MOCJ, we are working with our colleagues at courts and the judges. There's a number of different elements to this. This is a very complicated question to answer, but just as Alex said, one part of it is case processing that has been lagging for a number of years since COVID, as a result of COVID. And we're working with the judges and courts to figure out how we can provide additional support spaces for additional judges to come on and additional support staff and administrative staff for them so they can catch up with the case processing rates. We're also trying to expand our community programs and alternative to incarceration, supervised release, population review. Those are all different components that make up sort of the bigger challenges that we have with the justice system. So despite what it looks like on paper, it's not a one-for-one that we're currently at 6,000 plus or more or less population where we're going to put the rest of them. It's a bigger sort of this puzzle that we're working on all the pieces as this program is being designed and built right now.
Yeah, I think this you know, this is part of the plan that kind of puzzles me just because, you know, there are other cities, for example, where to lessen the jail population, they don't arrest as many people for quality of life issues because they're going to the jails, not the prisons. But that's not happening here in this city. It's more people are being arrested. So I guess that's what I'm envisioning, because there was the COVID spike. So we could say during COVID there was a spike, but now there's also another spike for a different reason. So for me, this is an issue that I think it would be helpful to have an answer for.
I understood, Commissioner, and we share the same concern. And we're working with our colleagues at NYPD, and the COVID spike was crime rates, but also arrest rates, as you mentioned. Our research and scientists group here at MOCJ, also with corrections team, who also has a research and scientists unit in their department, we're all working very closely to identify what are the opportunities with expanding different programs, what were the spikes, what were the reasons, what are the hot pockets of every neighborhood. So there's multiple layers to it. And apologies for my response if it's not comprehensive enough. I have a design background, but I'll be sure to take this back to MOCJ and have a more detailed response for you folks.
Thank you so much. Question. So I just need to clarify. So the jail, it's a city project, obviously. And then there is, for the design, there is a private party designing that, right? And so my question is, you're spending money to build it. I'm imagining there's a profit. I'm wondering what that looks like for building. It's not whoever.
I don't think I get the profit.
Right.
I'm going to turn it. I don't.
It's a huge project. It looks bigger than most of our housing. So what's the money coming in that looks like we're building a state-of-the-art jail?
Yeah, so we have the design build program at BPJ. Each project has their ITP, initial target price, and we are working actively to stay within that price. We don't have a breakdown of the profit percentages within the ITP, but we are working to stay at or below the ITP at the end of substantial completion.
And what's that?
I'm sorry, say it again?
And what is that?
The ITP?
Yeah, how much is it costing to build?
It's about $3 billion. I don't have the exact figure handy, but yes.
And then normally, since this is definitely something that you all have experience with, there's normally a profit, right? Or you lose money from building these state-of-the-art jails? I'm imagining no. So it's about $3 billion to build the jail, and then the profits look like what?
Like I said, we don't have that breakdown.
Generally, in other projects?
I couldn't speak on hand. I think it would be misleading to opine on that.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. And to close us out, Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentations, and also for addressing our questions. I really appreciate the information that you submitted in writing. I had 3 quick follow-up questions. One, I think, applies for what we've seen so far, specifically in terms of the sustainability measures. Thank you so much for the detailed presentation in terms of how the landscaping is heading in that way. But I'm wondering if you can provide a little more detail in terms of the actual energy efficiency measures inside. I think I've seen throughout the presentation some important aspects in this, but specifically I haven't seen much renewables on site. And I wonder if you can clarify, what's the general policy and to what extent are you considering that across the different projects?
I thought you'd never get to that question. Thank you. It's as I said earlier, it's a high-performance building. So it starts, the energy consciousness sustainability starts with a very well-insulated building. Triple glazed windows, very highly insulated wall panels, very, very tightly sealed building, reduces its energy consumption. High-performance building systems for heating and cooling, reduces the energy load. Solar panels and green roof all over the top of the building wherever we have big enough roof for it.
Can you share a little bit more technical information on that? I would appreciate that if you can.
Yeah, we're going for LEED Gold certification, so we can provide those documents, I guess, and that would have all the different aspects of sustainability in one place. I think that one of the renderings shows the rooftop solar, if you're interested, or no.
Yeah, I'm interested in the actual energy matrix of the building, just to understand how much as compared to what you're going to be using. But yeah, anything that you can submit later, I would appreciate that. I have another question in that regard. In similar. Or, in other words, following up to what you submitted. Thank you so much for the feedback on the number of classrooms and the fact that they're going to have natural light. The number sounds low to me. In the Bronx facility, you talked about 4 classrooms, 14 seats in each of them for a population that is very large. And so I'm wondering if you can help me understand, what is the standard that you use for that? And now moving into the Queens facility, because of what you've discussed in terms of the population that will be there, does that change, or how do you determine that? I'm very, very interested in the opportunities that the city will offer this population while they're in terms of their own education, and also just I want to understand kind of like what is the science standard that you use to anticipate and calculate that.
Well, I'll do it from an architect standpoint, but I guess the city can also lean in here. Yeah, just in brief, there's I think about 40 housing units in the building. Each of the housing units has a multi-purpose room, classroom, directly accessed from within the housing unit, so no transport required, as well as recreation and other things. There's a centralized program and education floor of the building that has many other types of classrooms and workforce development spaces, both separated for men and for women. So it's a very robust, it's almost an entire floor of the building.
And you're talking about specifically about the Queens one?
Correct. I'm only...
Yeah, got it. Good, okay. That's useful. Thank you. Okay. Can you share the details on that? I want to understand exactly how many seats and what is the layout of those spaces.
That I would have to defer to my client. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. I think it's a little too early to give you specifics in terms of chairs and spacing, but every single housing area has a multi-purpose room attached to it, and that room can be used for art therapy, for a wide variety of things, I should say, from art therapy to educational services or GED classes. We also have a school space in both the male and the female sides, right? And so our young adult population is mandated to go to school, so that's where our Department of Education colleagues will be working and providing school services to that population. But there's these multi-purpose rooms on every single housing area. There's also multi-purpose rooms on every single floor. So let's say we would take individuals out of their housing area and bring them to a separate classroom, but it's on their floor, so we don't have to go through the core to go to that educational space where DOE is. So we've expanded and really increased access to educational services, but all sorts of programming, because again, these rooms are being built to be flexible so that we can provide a wide variety of programming to the incarcerated population.
Thank you for clarifying that. We just got a simple answer, which was 4 classrooms, 14 seats. So if you can provide a little more information for us in writing, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then one last question, if I may. Sorry, this is just a follow-up. This is for DDC, I think. Thank you so much for your response on the Brooklyn facility in terms of the location of the bike share racks. I know where they are. I mean, you sent us a map reminding us where they are, but my question is, they're located on both sides of the loading dock. And so my question is that there could be a potential conflict with the trucks coming in and out and people actually using the bike rack. And so this is just sort of like a question that I have, wondering if, to understand how are you addressing that? Yeah. And I don't think it's the case in this one. I think that to some extent in the Bronx, but definitely in Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, thank you for clarifying your question. Apologies that we misunderstood it. We don't have anyone specifically here from the Brooklyn site at the moment, but we will follow up with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to all of you for being here today to share with us this update. We appreciate it. Wish you the best as you move forward. Okay, with that, Madam Secretary, let's move on to our certifications.
The next item on our agenda is a certification of a zoning map and zoning text amendments, an amendment to an urban renewal plan, site selection, acquisition, and disposition of city-owned property in Brooklyn Community District 2. Our presenter is Amrita Mahesh.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
The New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, together with the Department of Citywide Administrative Services and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, are seeking various land use actions to facilitate the development of a 72-story mixed-use building containing approximately 1,263 apartments, of which 325 to 379 would be income restricted pursuant to MIH, approximately 141,000 square feet of non-residential space, and approximately 4,700 square feet of public open space. The proposed development is located on a city-owned site at 395 Flatbush Avenue Extension within the downtown Brooklyn neighborhood of Community District 2 in Brooklyn. HPD proposes a zoning map amendment to rezone the project area from a C6-4 district to a C6-12 district, zoning text amendments to amend the special downtown Brooklyn district and establish a mandatory inclusionary housing area, and an amendment to the Brooklyn Center Urban Renewal Plan. DCAS and HPD seek disposition approval of city-owned property, and DCAS and DOHMH seek combined site selection and acquisition approval of real property interest. In conjunction with the proposed actions, additional approvals are being sought, and this includes a chairperson certification for transit volumes. The project area is in downtown Brooklyn, the city's third largest central business district. The CBD has a strong mix of commercial, residential, and institutional uses across a range of building typologies. Low and mid-rise buildings are interspersed alongside newer high-rise developments, generally ranging between 30 and 50 stories. The project area is located along a segment of the Flatbush Avenue corridor, which has experienced significant growth since the passage of the Downtown Brooklyn Plan in 2004. The project area is an approximately 49,000 square foot lot and consists of the entirety of Block 2093. To the north of the project area along DeKalb Avenue is the Long Island University's Brooklyn campus, which contains a number of institutional buildings, newer infill residential towers, and the Paramount Theater. The Brooklyn Hospital Center is also located to the northeast, bordering the 30-acre Fort Greene Park. To the south is Fulton Street, a key east-west corridor connecting Brooklyn Heights to East New York and Cypress Hills. The portion of Fulton Street west of Flatbush is the sub-district known as Fulton Mall, an active retail district and major shopping destination. Located directly across the street to the project area is 625 Fulton Street, a 500-foot-tall mixed-use development with a fresh supermarket on the ground floor. Further east of the project area are the Brooklyn Tech High School and several streets of 4-story townhouses. West of the project area is 589 Fulton Street, a 575-foot-tall mixed-use development currently in construction, as well as the landmarked Dine Savings Bank and the 1,000-foot-tall 9 DeKalb residential tower. Nearby open spaces include University Place to the north, Albee Square to the west, and Fox Square immediately to the south, as well as Fort Greene Park mentioned earlier. The neighborhood has exceptional access to public transit with 13 subway lines, as well as regional rail, several bus lines, and ample bike infrastructure. The DeKalb Avenue station entrance with access to the B, Q, and R lines is located within the project area. The Nevin Street subway station with access to the 2, 3, 4, and 5 lines is just south of the project area, and less than a half mile away are the Fulton Street subway line with access to the G line and the Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center station with access to 11 subway lines and the Long Island Railroad. Numerous bus routes operate in the vicinity, including the B25, B26, B38, B41, B45, B52, B67, B69, and B103 buses, with connections to Broadway Junction, Ridgewood, Kings Plaza, Cobble Hill, and Maspeth. A dedicated bus lane runs along Fulton Street adjacent to the project area. A city bike station with 70-plus docking stations is located along the project area's northern DeKalb Avenue frontage. The project area is located within the Special Downtown Brooklyn District, established in 2001 under the Unified Bulk Program, which exempted the area from certain height limits, instituted modest density increases from manufacturing to commercial and residential districts, and mapped contextual transition areas alongside the edge of the CBD. Subsequently, as part of the 2004 Downtown Brooklyn Plan, high-density zoning was put into place to facilitate the growth of the Central Business District. Blocks surrounding the project area are predominantly zoned with higher density commercial districts, C54, C64, C64.5, and C69, as well as mid-density residential districts R6, R6B, and R7A along the periphery of the CBD. The project area is located in a C64 zoning district, which is a high-density, non-contextual district that allows for a range of commercial uses as well as residential and community facility uses. C64 zoning districts are mapped within the special district are governed by tower regulations or special height and setback regulations. The site is also subject to other mandatory district requirements such as street wall continuity, curb cut restrictions, etc. The entire Central Business District is located within the inner transit zone where no parking requirements are mandated for new residential buildings. The project area is currently improved with a 7-story, approximately 307,000 square foot commercial building constructed in 1974. The building has 274,000 square feet of commercial office space, which currently houses a Verizon call center, and approximately 33,000 square feet of ground floor retail. There is a below-grade public parking garage with 140 parking spaces. This is a view along Flatbush Avenue at Fulton Street looking north. The project area is to the right of the image. And this is a view looking towards the south along Flatbush Avenue. The 80 Flatbush 505 State Street development is seen in the background. This is a view looking along the existing arcade at Flatbush Avenue looking south. And this is a view from Fox Square at Fulton Street looking east. The dedicated bus lane runs along the project area to the left of the image. This is a view from Fox Square Plaza, located at the corner of Flatbush and Fulton, looking towards the development site. And this is a view along Hudson Avenue, looking north towards DeKalb Avenue. The recently constructed 625 Fulton development is located on the right side of the image. And this is a view of Hudson Avenue looking south. The existing curb cuts and parking garage entrances are seen on the right. And here is a view of DeKalb Avenue looking west with the Paramount Theater seen on the right side of the image. And this is a view of DeKalb Avenue looking east towards Fort Greene Park. The LIU campus is seen on the left. And this is a view of the existing subway station entrance on site, which is to remain at the corner of DeKalb Avenue and Flatbush Avenue. Planning and investment efforts over the last 2 decades to stimulate development in downtown Brooklyn has spurred significant increases in housing and job growth. In an effort to help guide the CBD's continued evolution and highlight its important role in the borough and region, the department presented the EDS and MEDS framework to the CPC in 2023. The framework identified goals and opportunities to implement the new highest density zoning tools, promote an economically equitable, diverse, and integrated neighborhood, and explored redevelopment opportunities on public land to facilitate affordable and mixed-income housing, job space, and community-serving uses, specifically in the educational and medical sectors. The proposed development at 395 Flatbush is a 72-story, 1 million square foot mixed-use development with approximately 933,000 square feet of residential floor area, 141,000 square feet of non-residential floor area, and approximately 4,700 square feet of public open space. The building would contain approximately 1,263 apartments, of which 325 to 379 would be income restricted pursuant to MIH. Roughly 66,000 square feet of retail space is proposed on the first and second floors, and approximately 75,000 square feet of commercial office or community facility is anticipated on the upper floors of the podium. The non-residential space is currently contemplated to be occupied by a DOHMH facility with anticipated uses including a medical clinic, offices, community facility, and labs. An existing real estate of utility companies or REUC easement granted by the MTA extends diagonally across the southern portion of the project area, portions south of the dashed line shown here. The easement restricts development that exceeds a depth of approximately 6 feet below grade where the MTA subway tunnels are located. Therefore, the applicant is proposing to retain much of the existing structure. The building would be substantially demolished and portions of it would be adaptively reused. The applicant has explored ways to reconfigure the building footprint to address public realm and site circulation needs. Sidewalk conditions are being reevaluated across the site perimeter to improve the pedestrian experience and accommodate building operations. The proposed development will eliminate the existing arcade, pulling the street wall to the property line, bringing the retail to the sidewalk to be more inviting and visible. The proposed development will also include expanded sidewalks, particularly along Flatbush Avenue, up to 18 feet to increase pedestrian circulation space. And this would be achieved by eliminating the parking strip along Flatbush Avenue in coordination with DOT. The residential lobby would front on DeKalb Avenue at the corner of DeKalb and Hudson, while the commercial lobby entrance is located directly east of the DeKalb Avenue subway station entrance. Ground floor retail uses are proposed along Flatbush, Fulton Street, fronting the open space, as well as on the southern portion of Hudson Avenue. Similar to the existing conditions, the loading berths and parking access will remain located along the development site's Hudson Avenue frontage. The open space, the partial demolition of the building space will also facilitate the creation of a 4,700 square foot public open space. The open space location at the prolongation of Fulton Mall is intended to contribute to the existing public realm network while enhancing the retail environment at this important intersection. The open space will be designed to support pedestrian movement, integrate seating, and introduce landscaping that contributes to the district's transformed public realm and enhances connections between surrounding open spaces. The open space design has been developed in consultation with DCP and is to be further refined through the Public Design Commission's approval process. The siting of the proposed tower is largely due to the existing subway infrastructure running beneath the southern half of the project area. This presents subgrade constraints and development challenges, necessitating all vertical development to be located on the northern portion of the development site. The redevelopment would include a new L-shaped tower ranging from 65 to 72 stories over the existing repurposed podium, and setbacks and tower articulation strategies are employed. This is an illustrative view of the proposed development at DeKalb Avenue and Flatbush Avenue. The circulation space adjacent to the subway station entrance and the vertical clearance of the overhang would be made more generous. This is an illustrative view of the proposed development along the Flatbush Avenue frontage. The building base is expected to continue to have a strong non-residential presence with ample glazing. And this is an illustrative view of the proposed development and open space along the Fulton Street frontage. The proposed development is anticipated to be 100% electric and is targeting sustainability certifications such as LEED and WELL. As noted earlier, a significant portion of the podium structure is anticipated to be reused, taking advantage of the embodied carbon of the existing building. The recent City of Yes for Housing Opportunity text amendment introduced new zoning districts such as C612 that have increased the permissible residential FAR to greater than 12 FAR, which was previously prohibited due to the New York State multiple dwelling law cap, which has since been eliminated. The applicant is proposing to rezone the project area from a C64 district to the newly created C612 zoning district, as further modified by the special district and in conjunction with a proposed zoning text amendment. The zoning district boundary would encompass the entirety of Block 2093, bounded by the center lines of the surrounding streets. The applicant is also seeking to modify the floor area provisions to permit greater FARs than allowed in the underlying C612 regulations if certain conditions are met, which I will walk through in the forthcoming slide. The proposed C612 zoning district within the downtown Brooklyn district will be governed by height and setback regulations of the special district, which allow either standard height and setback regulations up to a maximum height of 395 feet with qualifying affordable housing, or tower regulations. Under tower regulations, towers located above the base in C612 zoning districts are regulated by lot coverage with no set maximum height limits. The applicant proposes amendments to the special downtown Brooklyn district's floor area, bulk, and mandatory district plan elements to facilitate the proposed development. First, the text amendment proposes to create a new defined term, large qualifying site, which is zoning lots that occupy an entire block or are a minimum of 30,000 square feet with at least one full block frontage along a street. On large qualifying sites, the C612 district, as modified by the special district, would permit a maximum FAR of 19 for residential, 15 for commercial and community facility uses, and a total maximum FAR of 23. The proposed FAR regime is intended to permit increased housing capacity that would include affordable housing subject to the MIH program, while also providing additional floor area that may be used for retail and additional commercial or community facility establishments that are intended to help further the goals of the CBD and special district. The applicant is proposing to modify setback requirements for zoning-defined large qualifying sites that have below-grade transit infrastructure occupying more than 30% of the zoning lot. Up to 30% of the total street wall width of the development would be exempt from setback requirements. This would provide a pathway for sites constrained by significant infrastructure to accommodate viable building forms, particularly for developments which have certain dimensional and vertical circulation needs. Given that the proposed tower is restricted in its location and orientation due to the existing subway infrastructure, no setback is provided above the base along DeKalb Avenue to accommodate the residential floor area and maintain optimal floor plates. The applicant notes that the surrounding built context, street width, and location along the major intersection of Flatbush Avenue and DeKalb Avenue are generally conducive to allowing this shear rising condition. Currently, the special downtown Brooklyn district mandates a continuous street wall at certain locations, including along the project site's Flatbush and Fulton frontages. The applicant is seeking to amend the street wall location provisions. The proposed modification would provide exemptions from the street wall location and continuity requirements for zoning-defined large qualifying sites if publicly accessible open space is provided. A zoning text amendment is proposed to Appendix F to establish the project area as an MIH area. The applicant proposes to map MIH options 1 and 2. Under option 1, at least 25% of the residential floor area must be permanently affordable to households with an income with incomes at weighted average of 60% AMI. And under option 2, at least 30% of residential floor area must be permanently affordable to households with an income at a weighted average of 80% AMI. The applicant proposes utilizing MIH option 1. HPD and DCAS are seeking a disposition action to allow Brooklyn Block 2093 Lot 1 to be conveyed to a sponsor selected by HPD. DCAS and DOHMH are seeking site selection and acquisition approval to facilitate the location of a potential clinic and office space for DOHMH. DOHMH is in need of additional clinic and office space to expand, modernize, and streamline their services in downtown Brooklyn. And given the proposed development's location with access to several transit resources, a potential DOHMH clinic within the building base was identified as an effective option for consideration. The proposed DOHMH facility would use approximately 75,000 square feet or 81,000 square feet of gross floor area. As noted earlier, the project area would be disposed to a sponsor selected by HPD, and once constructed, the portion of the building containing a DOHMH facility may need to be reacquired by the city, necessitating the proposed acquisition action. The project area is designated as a Site 2 of the Brooklyn Center Urban Renewal Plan. The Urban Renewal Plan was originally approved by the City Planning Commission in August 1970 to facilitate the redevelopment of areas located on both sides of Flatbush Avenue between Lafayette Avenue and Myrtle Avenue. The most recent revision to the URP was a minor change approved in 2016. The current version of the URP is set to expire in July 2044. The applicant is seeking to amend the Brooklyn Center URP. This would be the sixth amendment. The applicant is seeking to extend the plan's duration to 99 years from the date of approval of the Sixth Amendment. The applicant is also proposing modifications to Section 3A, Supplementary Controls on Sites. The URP would require that a portion of the project area, Site 2, be developed as open space accessible to the public, as approved by HPD and in consultation with GCP. It should be noted that if approved, such a space resulting from a CPC action would be deemed a POPS pursuant to Local Law 116 and 250 of 2017. Public space signage, compliance, and reporting requirements would apply. Pursuant to Local Law 78 of 2021, this application requires a racial equity report. The project area is located in the Fort Greene neighborhood tabulation area, and the displacement risk score is intermediate. As of 2021, the median household income in the neighborhood is approximately $119,000, significantly higher than the New York City median of around $70,000. The applicant is proposing MIH option 1 with incomes at a weighted average of 60% of EMI. The income of households occupying the proposed income restricted units is estimated to be within the range of $45,000 to $162,000, and the monthly rent would be between approximately $1,100 and $3,600. The project area is in the Brooklyn Heights and Fort Greene public use microdata area. In 2020, the Brooklyn Heights and Fort Greene PUMA had 12% of the population identify as Asian non-Hispanic, 20% as Black non-Hispanic, 14% as Hispanic Latino, and 47% as white non-Hispanic. From 2010 to 2020, the Brooklyn Heights and Fort Greene PUMA, Asian and non-Hispanic populations increased by 109%. Black population decreased by 12%. Hispanic Latino population increased by 11%, and the white non-Hispanic population increased by 40%. From 2010 to 2023, housing units in the Brooklyn Heights and Fort Greene PUMA area increased by 38%, and from 2010 to 2020, population increased by 29%. HPD is the seeker lead agency. A notice of completion of a draft environmental impact statement was issued on August 8th. The DEIS identified significant adverse impacts with respect to transportation, traffic, and pedestrians, and construction, traffic, pedestrians, and noise. Mitigation measures are identified in the DEIS and will be explored further in the final environmental impact statement. In summary, the proposed actions would facilitate a 72-story, approximately 1 million square foot mixed-use development on a city-owned property in downtown Brooklyn, CD2. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. A lot in there. I have just one question, and then I'm going to go to Commissioner Benjamin, perhaps others. On the urban renewal plan, expiration and renewal, two things. One, you noted that there will be a new provision included in the urban renewal plan that a portion of Site 2 will be accessible to the public.
That's right.
As open space, correct?
That's right.
That's a new provision.
That is correct.
And that's something that could be incorporated through the amendment to the urban renewal plan.
That's right.
And how big a portion would be reserved to the public as anticipated in this amendment?
The amendment doesn't specify how much open space. It just requires that some amount of public open space be located. In this case, the applicant is proposing roughly 4,700 square feet.
Okay. But under the urban renewal plan, if they ended up doing 10 feet, it would be consistent.
Yes, there is no minimum specified.
Right, okay, got it. Okay, I mean, I do think it's a good addition. I think we should include that in there. Okay, and then the renewal or the extension of the term. How should the commission think about the extension of an urban renewal plan that's set to expire in 2044 and to bump it out to 99 more years?
Sure. In this case, the applicant is expecting to renegotiate a ground lease with the potential sponsor, and this is supposed to be a 99-year term, and therefore they are seeking to amend the plan duration to be coterminous with that new ground lease term. And our understanding is that this has been done in the past. The findings relate to the general municipal law of New York State, and at recent examples like Waterside Plaza, the commission has extended the plan duration to be coterminous with the ground lease structure. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. Let me go to Commissioner Benjamin.
I have a couple of questions, and one relates to to what the chair just asked. There is nothing that would prohibit the renegotiation of the ground lease without extending the urban renewal plan. Urban renewal plans have expired, and the city still owns the property, and the city can still renegotiate. Is that correct?
I'm not entirely sure of that, but I can relay that question to HPD and their counsel and get a response.
Okay, because we have done that in a number of cases where we have not extended the urban renewal, or where the urban renewal has expired and the city has just used their power to negotiate with a potential user like the Excel site. So if you could get back to me on that, because I'm wondering why what is the basis for extending the urban renewal in a time when most urban renewals not only are not being extended, we're allowing them, even if there is unused property under the urban renewal, we're allowing the urban renewal to expire. But my biggest question, and clearly I have a lot of concerns about a 72-story building here, but I particularly have them because we own this site. And this is a massive upzoning in a location and part of the city where housing production has exceeded population expansion. The production increase was 29%. The housing increase was 38% already without this building. So in our thinking about housing, where we in the city of Yes are trying to build housing in communities that haven't had housing, I'm just unclear and uncomfortable with the idea that we're massively upzoning this site that has already, this community has been the subject of much additional housing, why we need to upzone it this much, particularly because the population that I continue to say needs housing the most is families. And we're going to get 80 family apartments out of the 1,263 apartments that are slated to be built. Only 80 of them will be 2 or 3 bedroom apartments. And it seems to me, particularly on a publicly owned site, that we're going to upzone and do this whole project and end up with studios and one-bedroom apartments. And that to start with, we're only going to get, all told, 300?
325 to 379.
On a city-owned site. It just seems as if we're going in the wrong direction. We're allowing for a massive upzoning, but we're not really getting a lot of benefits out of it, unless the trade-off is how much the city thinks they're going to get from whoever is the winning bidder. But that's a trade-off I would want to know about, because right now, I don't think this is a good site for a 72-story building. I think it's much too dense. I think even if right now, the sidewalk on the Flatbush Avenue side is fairly large. And the open space in front of the McDonald's, which is about, I think, not that different from what the open space will look like afterwards, is not well utilized. There's a plaza across the street, across Fulton, that is also not particularly well utilized. It's utilized by people walking. I mean, I don't see where the public benefits from this project would lead us to do this massive upzoning, and I don't see that the upzoning really does fit it. I mean, One Brooklyn, that's on that, it had trouble leasing their space, and still do. A number of the buildings that have been built under the Brooklyn plan have not been able to keep a core of tenants, nor has the ground floor in this building kept it. There's been a lot of turnover in the retail that's on the ground floor. So I guess the question is, why and how are the numbers that are produced here in the public interest? And couldn't we do better if I just think that a 72-story building here, the traffic is terrible. And I guess in the end that I don't understand why we want to do all the hoops, including the change that would allow for a 23 FAR at this location.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the feedback. I think one thing I will clarify is that the data from the RER is of the larger Puma geography. We do have more recent and more fine-grained information about the downtown Brooklyn neighborhood, and we're happy to kind of follow up with some of the housing trends and population trends if helpful. But in terms of the affordability considerations, we can relay the question to HPD, given that it is a public site, and have them speak to some of the affordability levels contemplated. Right now, it is MIH option 1 and 325 units. And our understanding is that this project, as contemplated now, requires zero subsidy and will provide a significant number of income-restricted units without having to go through the lengthy HPD pipeline, but we can have the HPD team elaborate. And in terms of the proposed density, I will note that it is a very transit-rich area, and the proposal is in line with some of the goals outlined in the EDS and MEDS framework. And which we haven't approved yet, so. Right. But we're happy to kind of take a closer look at some of these flags and follow up with you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me go to Commissioner Goodrich.
Commissioner Benjamin actually kind of addressed my question, which was why we're using city-owned land to have a mixed income development. So that was pretty much it.
Thank you, Commissioner. We can relay that question to HPD and get a more detailed response as to some of their considerations.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marin.
Thank you, Chair. So first, to begin with, I'd like to echo some of the sentiments that Commissioner Benjamin laid out. I too believe that this is city-owned property that should be 100% affordable. Understanding that and understanding the fact that you talked about cross-subsidy, basically, without saying cross-subsidy. if HPD is not providing subsidy, first of all, you're saying option one. So if you can tell us, and I mean when I say use HPD because you're not going to have these answers, if HPD can tell us what term sheets they might have used under that option one, and then tell us what is the equivalent of the cross-subsidy that they're contemplating to get from the rental units to subsidize the affordable units, that's something to be considered, aside from the fact that I still feel that this is a city-owned site and should be 100% affordable. And I'm going to keep repeating that mantra as we go along. That's what we heard from this administration early on, and that doesn't seem to be that's what's happening now.
Thank you.
So if we can get that understanding and the cross-subsidization, this was a big topic for Councilmember Powers and I having a conversation about this a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. So I'd like to better understand that because it just doesn't, saying it's cross-subsidized is not enough. I'd like to see how that equates to their term sheets.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I can certainly have HPD elaborate on that. For now, I have some basic information, which is a 60% AMI, which is $87,000 for a family of 3. That would be the overall average, and 130 apartments would be eligible for very low incomes at 40% AMI, which is $58,000 for a family of 3.
And I do expect a response from HPD.
Absolutely. We will relay this question to them.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mann?
I wanted to spend a moment on the easement and the sort of overbuild question that we skipped through quite quickly, just to understand the building massing and the subway improvements. So do you mind going back to that slide just so I could look through the application? I didn't see a lot in here about this. So I just wanted to make sure I understood it. One of the things that was most exciting about this proposal when I first heard about it was the chance to redevelop the site entirely. And so to keep the building there feels like a huge missed opportunity, given I think it's not a celebrated piece of architecture. So, yeah, can you just explain that a little bit more about why the building has to stay?
Absolutely. Our understanding from the applicant team is that the structure of the existing building is quite robust, and there are some challenges with a full rebuild with respect to citing new foundations and things of that nature. It seemed more practical to retain much of the structure. They're doing a pretty substantial demolition of it and reconfiguring the floors within the podium, as well as shrinking the footprint and expanding the footprint in certain locations. But we can certainly have them elaborate on why they chose to go that route over a full rebuild.
Right, because a full rebuild would obviously create an opportunity to actually have a significantly improved subway entrance there, a better public plaza there, an actual meaningful, I'd say, public plaza. The 4,000 square feet is a little bit modest at the scale of the density of downtown Brooklyn. So, yeah, that feels like a pretty critical piece of this puzzle, just why. Because I assume there's going to be a lot of structure added for the overbuild here. And so why the podium couldn't be removed and more space created for the subway entrance and the plaza there.
Absolutely.
And just on the applicant piece, so did HPD issue an RFP and award this to the development team? Is that how we got here?
We can have HPD expand on that. Our understanding is that it's the current leaseholder that they're in negotiations with.
Got it. Okay. So the current leaseholder is the proposed developer of this.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Just on the, again, I'm sure you'll hear about affordable housing, or at least HPD will through the whole project until the council probably, but focus on the public plaza, because I'm not sure I totally understand. What's the difference between the before and after here?
Sure. The before is that the current condition along Fulton Street, the sidewalk, there's a significant sort of grade change as well between the edge of the curb and the building's arcade. They are seeking to kind of expand that section, make it ADA accessible, and integrate some minimal amounts of landscaping and seating, as well as some circulation space, given that it is a highly trafficked pedestrian circulation zone.
Got it. So that location, the existing building gets shaved back.
That's right.
By a modest dimension.
That's right.
And just last question. This stuff is sitting on top of some subways. I'd say probably in most instances we'd see a transit improvement that would accompany a building of this scale sitting on top of a subway. Can you help me understand if there's actually any improvements to the circulation of the train station, or the subway station there?
Our understanding is that the DeKalb Avenue station is already ADA accessible, and today there are 2 stairs and an elevator within the project site, which is seen here. So the applicant is proposing some surface level improvements, improvements to the circulation area, making it wider. The vertical clearance of this zone is also being increased, and there's going to be improved lighting and materials to this zone. They're also in coordination with the MTA to secure a transit easement volume via chair certification through the ZFA process.
Okay, so there's some, I'll call it cosmetic improvements, but no additional, circulation improvements. Got it. Yeah, not having spent a lot of time studying the subway station, but just found it a little peculiar given the density here and the important subway station that wasn't more integrated into the overall development framework. And then just last question on the 18 versus 19 FAR. I found this one a little bit sort of head-scratching. So the new zoning district, the C612 that was created, has an 18 FAR-based residential.
That's right.
And here for large sites, HPD is proposing 19. Is there a logic to that?
Yes, so the proposal seeks to kind of increase the overall amount of residential by around 1 FAR, which we believe it kind of adds an additional FAR to what would generate MIH, and the overall max also goes up by roughly 5 FAR, which allows for additional non-residential in the podium of the development. So that's kind of the logic behind the regime here.
Okay, but I'm not sure how the additional FAR of residential adds more FAR of non-residential. Sorry.
No, I mean the total max, not the residential. The residential is just a 1 FAR increase compared to the as-of-right C612 regulations.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I totally follow the logic on this point. Not that I'm disputing the 19, just trying to understand why, after we just created the zoning district, we're creating new FARs for that district that was just created. So I guess we'll wait for the public hearing to conclude the suspense on that question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Finishing up with Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation, and I concur with that last point. I mean, the way that I'm thinking about this proposal is that this is kind of like the first time that we're actually seeing how these zoning districts are rendering out, and quite honestly, a lot of questions that, we raised during City of Yes are coming to light, not in a bad way, but as an opportunity to actually, now that we're actually sort of like designating or proposing to land those districts, we can see what that looks like. So I think that I'm not going to spend time repeating, but I do want to associate myself with some of the comments that were made earlier, specifically in terms of the affordability of this. My one suggestion as HPD response to the City Planning Commission would be to make sure to factor in the race equity report on this, given that, this, according to the latest data, Black non-Hispanics are at 53,000. And Hispanics are at 55,000. So option 1, MIH, is not necessarily serving them. And so I would like to understand, again, given the fact that this is a publicly owned land, what can we do there to really address that? The second point has to do with, I would like to understand how is HPD anticipating the quality of life issues for a resident that is going to live in a building this high. And, given that many cities around, this part of the world have been really asking what's the right height or what is the maximum height in which we can still keep track and make sure that children are socializing and other aspects that are challenging. I just want to understand how is the city anticipating that, and how is the design? How can the design address them? So that's a question on the height of a building. And then just finally a recommendation for the department. Given the amount of feedback that the city got during the scoping session, I think that it would be really useful to publish the preliminary DEIS in the zoning application portal. Thanks so much for the staff too for facilitating that to us. That's extremely useful. A lot of the questions that I have related to the relationship or the impacts of this proposal with the Brooklyn Hospital Center and the impact on the park, I'm sure are going to be addressed in there. But given the amount of feedback that the city has gotten from the public, it'll be useful to have them there. I know that they're in the seeker access portal anywhere, but just as we publish DEISs in the zoning application portal, I think they would be useful to just do that with all of the proposals, including ones like this one where, other agencies are the lead agencies, et cetera.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the feedback. On the quality of life aspect, I'll just note that the applicant team has noted that there's going to be roughly 28,000 square feet of amenity space interspersed throughout the building. They're shown in this darker yellow. I don't know if it's very clear, but the tower has multiple sort of levels that are dedicated to gathering space for residents and roughly 5,000 square feet of outdoor recreation space as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I will note before we certify this item that from my own perspective as it relates to City of Yes, it was obviously an opportunity for us to open the door to allow for housing in parts of the city which have not produced any housing over time, but also an opportunity for us to add new tools to enable it even in places that have. Midtown Manhattan, like we're doing in Midtown South, downtown Brooklyn are, to me, optimal places to actually use those tools. So I'm excited to see this proposal, and I'm excited to have this conversation as we go through the process. And with that, we're certified. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Let me move on to item number 2. Madam Secretary, thank you. Seaside Park.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is a certification of dispositions of city-owned properties and acquisition, zoning text amendment, and a special permit in Brooklyn Community District 13. Our presenter is David Weisglass.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Hello, David.
Here we go. The project before you today is the certification of the Seaside Park and Community Arts Center special permit. There are 3 applicants for this project. First, the private applicant, Seaside Park LLC, as well as the New York City Economic Development Corporation, or EDC, and the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services, or DCAS. The project is located at 3054 West 22nd Street and encompasses 15 tax lots in Block 7071 in Coney Island, Community District 13 in Brooklyn. The project is located in City Council District 47, which is the district of Councilmember Justin Brannon. The proposed development includes the approval of the Coney Island Amphitheater via a new special permit with waivers for signage, parking, and loading, as well as a series of acquisitions and dispositions that will enlarge the project area to include additional open space on this site. There are 5 actions being requested today by the applicants. The first is a zoning text amendment to multiple sections of the ZR to allow the CPC to permit an arena by special permit. The second is a special permit application for said arena. The third action is the acquisition of a portion of Block 7071, Lot 123. And finally, there are 2 separate dispositions. One disposition restricted by the conditions of the special permit for the entirety of the project area, and another separate disposition of the adjacent Child's building and a small sliver adjacent to it, which is not restricted to the conditions of the special permit. These actions are being sought to allow the continuation of the existing Seaside Community Arts Center, an expansion of Seaside Park, and to reflect changes to the site since its original approval in 2013. As noted, the project is located in Coney Island in Community District 13. The Seagate neighborhood can be found at the western edge of the neighborhood, and further east of your view here is Brighton Beach. The project area can be seen outlined in the dashed line in red at the bottom of your screen, adjacent to the beach. Major notable sites in the area include Riegelman Boardwalk, directly adjacent to the project area, Maimonides Park, home of the Brooklyn Cyclones, to the east of the project area, and the amusement area further to the east past the ballpark. To the north, adjacent to Coney Island Creek, is Kaiser Park, a 26-acre neighborhood park. Adjacent to that park is West 23rd Street Community Garden and the Mark Twain Intermediate School for the Gifted and Talented. Several additional schools, as well as the Coney Island YMCA, are found within 5 blocks of the project area. This area is well served by public transit. The Coney Island Stillwell Avenue subway station, located just under a half mile from the project area, serves the D, F, N, and Q trains, and the West 8th Street New York Aquarium station provides service to the F and Q trains. The B36 bus, providing service to Sheepshead Bay, runs along Surf Avenue and makes stops near both subway stations. The B74 bus simply runs east-west from Seagate to the Coney Island Stillwell Avenue station along Mermaid Avenue. The X28 and X38 buses provide direct service to the financial district in Manhattan. I'd like to zoom in a little bit more on the project area now. The project area is outlined here in red and is bound by West 21st Street to the east, Riegelman Boardwalk to the south, and West 23rd Street to the west. You can see the historic Childs building on the project site as well. Surf Avenue, a central retail spine connecting this area to the amusement areas to the east, is 120 feet in width. West 21st Street and West 23rd Street, bounding the project areas on the east and west, respectively, are each 60 feet in width. West 22nd Street reaches a dead end at the northern boundary of the project area, and I'll show some visual photos of that later in the presentation. Across West 23rd Street from the project area is the Seacrest Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. To the northeast of the project area, across West 21st Street, are a series of developments that have been completed as a part of the 2009 Coney Island rezoning. Further east are the Abe Stark Sports Center, the historic Parachute Jump Ride, and Maimonides Park. This is an area map showing the project area outlined in red. Land uses in the surrounding area vary significantly, as much of the area is under construction for the goals of the Coney Island rezoning plan, which I'll discuss in a moment. Retail uses are concentrated to the north along Surf Avenue, whereas several institutional and utility uses are located directly to the west of the project area. Existing infill developments in the neighborhood range in height from 1 to 6 stories, whereas several tower in the park style NYCHA and Mitchell-Lama developments are present in the area and rise to between 13 and 22 stories in height. The zoning of the project area is split between an R5 district, generally mapped to the west of West 22nd Street, and an R7D C24 district mapped to the east over the Childs building. On Parcel B within the Coney West subdistrict, which is the eastern part of the project area, R7D districts have a maximum permitted FAR of 4.8 for standard residences and 5.8 for buildings, including qualifying affordable housing. Within 70 feet of the boardwalk, the maximum base height is 40 feet, and the maximum transition height further from the boardwalk is 95 feet. Above 95 feet, tower regulations apply. C24 districts permit all local retail uses as well as offices and select laboratories. When mapped over R7D districts, commercial uses are permitted up to 2.0 FAR. 1 parking space is required per 1,000 square feet of commercial floor area, and parking requirements are waived when fewer than 40 spaces are required. You can see to the east here, per the C24 overlays, a number of streets which are mapped as part of the Coney Island rezoning plan and are proposed for construction and under construction, and I'll go over these more in a bit. Quickly, I'd like to show a flood map of the area, and you can see that essentially the entirety of the surrounding area is located in an A zone, or a high flood risk zone. The Coney Island Comprehensive Rezoning Plan was approved in 2009 and created the Special Coney Island District, as well as the Coney West Subdistrict, which is the home of our project area today. The comprehensive plan was intended to facilitate a year-round amusement and entertainment district, ensure redevelopment of vacant and underutilized land in the area, strengthen Surf Avenue as a central retail and pedestrian spine, support Coney Island's unique character, and facilitate economic revitalization of the peninsula. Here you can see the full special district area created by that rezoning. There were 7 actions as a part of this project in 2009, including the mapping and demapping of certain streets, the acquisition and disposition of certain properties within the project area, and a UDAP designation for other city-owned properties within the project area. 3 sub-districts were created in 2009. The Coney East Sub-District, which is the heart of the amusement area, Coney North Sub-District, which is designated as a mixed-use residential and retail area along Surf Avenue connecting Coney East and Coney West, and finally, the Coney West Sub-District, the home of our project area today. The Coney West Sub-District is the area west of Maimonides Park between Surf Avenue and the Boardwalk. The outline of the sub-district as approved in 2009 is seen here in red. In 2009, it was generally characterized by underutilized or vacant land. Through the plan, it was then re-envisioned as a 6-block mixed-use area designed to continue the existing residential neighborhoods surrounding, add affordable housing, encourage the continued redevelopment of Surf Avenue as a central retail spine, and extend the amusement-related uses of the Coney East Subdistrict to the Boardwalk to the west. To date, significant developments toward the realization of this vision have already been made. On Parcel C, seen here, 2 buildings have already been constructed. The 9-story Surf Vets Place, which is a supportive housing building for formerly homeless veterans, and the 20-story Raven Hall, which contains residences above ground floor retail. The 23-story affordable housing development, known as Luna Green, is currently under construction on the southeast portion of the parcel. In February, the Economic Development Corporation issued an RFP for the development of Parcel A, with the vision of residential development above ground floor retail. EDC also issued a request for qualifications to renovate the 46,000 square foot Abe Stark Sports Center, which is located on Parcel F. The project area, outlined in blue, is located on Parcels B and G. You will note here that Parcel G was originally not included in the sub-district as it was added later, as you'll see in our next slide. In 2013, the CPC approved 7 actions within the Special Coney Island District, including the enlargement of the Coney West Sub-District to include the aforementioned Parcel G, to facilitate the development of public open space and the restoration of the Child's Building. Further, included in the project was the creation of a special permit to allow an amphitheater for up to a 10-year term. The goals of siting an amphitheater in this location was to create a temporary active use that would stimulate the underutilized area while the infrastructure and sewer improvements were made that were necessary to realize the vision of the Coney West Subdistrict. The special permit was granted for a 10-year term, and a temporary C of O was granted in 2016, which marked the beginning of that 10-year term. Since 2016, the Coney Island Amphitheater has promoted and held approximately 150 ticketed events, 30 free shows, and 160 graduation ceremonies, featuring some of these events featured some of the most famous acts in the country. The Child's Building has hosted events and weddings, and when it's not reserved for special events, it serves the public as a full-service restaurant. Here you can see the approved 2013 plan for the amphitheater. There are 3 main components seen here: the historic Child's Building along West 21st Street, the amphitheater in the middle of the site, and public open space at the western portion of the site adjacent to West 23rd Street. The 2013 approval permitted the construction of a limited-term amphitheater with stepped seating, the restoration of the historic Child's Building, including an interior stage for the amphitheater, and the construction of Seaside Park, including a public lawn and a play area. Additionally, the project permitted the construction of a comfort station along the boardwalk. So that takes us to where we are today, and I'd like to show you at this point a few photos of the site. I'm going to begin by showing photos of the periphery of the site, looking into it, moving counterclockwise, before showing a few photos of the interior of the site itself. This photo here shows the amphitheater itself, with the historic Child's Building in the background, as seen from the boardwalk. This photo shows the roof structure of the amphitheater, which is proposed to be permanent during on and off seasons. This photo also shows fences and a visual screen beyond the metal detectors. These items were not part of the original 2013 approval, but have been added to the site since. This image shows the historic Childs Building looking north along West 21st Street as seen from the boardwalk. This photo shows essentially the opposite view of our previous image. This shows the Childs Building on the right looking south towards the boardwalk along West 21st Street. This image shows a view of the project area from West 22nd Street with newly constructed Ocean Way to the left. Here you can see the end of the street and the southern entrance to the amphitheater. The sound curtains around the periphery of the amphitheater can be seen in this image as well. This image shows the public open space in the background, but seen in the foreground are two tax lots, that's lots 79 and 81, that are now being added to the project area and will be redeveloped into an expansion of the existing open space. This image shows another view of the open space on the site from across West 23rd Street. Beyond the fence are the two lots that I discussed in the previous slide that are now being added to the project area as expanded open space. This image shows nearly the entirety of the site as seen from the boardwalk, showing the open space in the background and the roof of the open space in the foreground, and the roof of the amphitheater behind it. I'd like to now show some photos of the interior of the site. This image shows one of the pathways within the public open area within Seaside Park. This image here shows a constructed playground that is located within the northern portion of the public open space. And I'd like to now show some photos of the interior of the amphitheater itself. This is an image of the amphitheater looking south from West 22nd Street towards the boardwalk. Here you can see the bleachers at the rear, which serve as additional seating during events. This is an image of the amphitheater facing east from the rear towards the stage, which is built into the interior of the adjacent Childs Building. And finally, this is an image of the amphitheater facing north towards West 22nd Street. This pathway connects West 22nd Street to the boardwalk and is accessible to the public when events are not being held. You can also see a sound curtain at the periphery of the amphitheater, which is proposed to remain year-round. The applicant is proposing the approval of the Coney Island Amphitheater per a new special permit, with waivers for signage, parking, and loading. The special permit application will also codify existing conditions on the site. Additionally, the proposal includes a portion of Lot 123 adjacent to the Childs Building, as well as the enlargement of the project area to include the additional open space on Lots 79 and 81, which are seen here in gray. And you can see here the proposed design for that expanded open space, as outlined here in that white dotted line. This area will feature an at-grade entrance along West 23rd Street, as well as an accessible path that connects to the existing pathway on Seaside Park. The EDC has confirmed that they have coordinated with the Public Design Commission and the Department of Parks and Recreation on the open space design in this area. Here we'll see a list of the requested actions for the project. First, the applicant is requesting a zoning text amendment to authorize the CPC to permit an arena. The special permit text previously lived in Article 13, Chapter 1, which governs the Special Coney Island District. The amendment will move the text to Article 7, Chapter 4, which governs regulations for arenas, auditoriums, and stadiums citywide. I'll expand upon that in a moment. Second, the applicant is applying for the new special permit to allow an arena with a maximum of 6,000 seats. I'll go over the specific conditions and provisions of the new special permit in the following slides. The applicant is also requesting the acquisition of a portion of Block 7071, Lot 123, to add that portion of that lot to the project area. Fourth, the applicant is requesting a disposition of all of the lots included in the now expanded project area, restricted to the conditions of the special permit, from DCAS to EDC. Finally, the applicant is requesting a separate disposition of Lot 130, which is comprised of the Child's Building, and the newly acquired portion of Lot 123. The zoning text amendment makes changes to Section 74-182, 131-16, and 131-61. The proposed text moves the special permit from Article 13, Chapter 1, which is where regulations on the Coney Island Special District live, and is moving them to Article 7, Chapter 4, which is where special permits for arenas, auditoriums, stadiums, and trade expositions live citywide. These changes would result in a simplified special permit text that ensures operational use and functionality of the facility while also allowing flexibility for a future operator. The proposed text amendment aligns most of the conditions and findings with those for other similar facilities and removes aspects of the existing amphitheater special permit text that require components of the project that are no longer operationally feasible, such as the removable roof. Here you can see an overall plan of the site as submitted by the applicant. You can see the arena outlined in red as the public, you can see the area, my apologies, outlined in red as the public open space. During the off-season, when events are not being held, the amphitheater will remain publicly accessible as well. The interior walkway and the corridor will provide access from West 22nd Street to the boardwalk when events are not being held, as previously mentioned. As noted, in the middle of the site is the amphitheater, which will remain essentially as it currently exists today. To the west of the amphitheater, Seaside Park will be expanded to include lots 79 and 81, which are shaded in orange. Shaded in blue to the east of the amphitheater is the historic Child's Restaurant building, which will continue to be tenanted with eating and drinking uses and houses the stage for the amphitheater. Shaded in purple is a small portion of Lot 123. This lot, and this area of the lot, I should say, is now being acquired by the city and added to the project area as a small area wedged between the historic Child's Building and Ocean Way, the map street created by the 2009 Coney Island rezoning. This sliver was not added to the project area in 2013 because at the time it was improved with an office building that was occupied by the New York City Human Resources Administration. That building has since been demolished, and as such, this sliver is now available to be acquired and will be acquired and added to the project area. This image shows the floor plan for the main floor of the historic Child's Building located to the east of the amphitheater. Please note that we're now facing east, not north, with the amphitheater at the bottom of your screen. Again, you can see the stage is housed within the Child's Building. You can also see the development of the building as a restaurant accessible from the boardwalk. Adjacent to the building, shown in purple, is the aforementioned portion of Lot 123 that will now be acquired and disposed of along with the Child's Building. I'd like to note here that per the special permit, waivers of underlying parking, loading, and signage regulations are being sought. Regarding parking, the underlying zoning requires 66 parking spaces, and according to the applicant, there is sufficient public transportation and ample parking in the neighborhood, negating the need for this additional parking. As such, no on-site parking is being proposed. Loading and signage waivers are also required, and I'll go over these details in the next slides. But generally, loading waivers are requested due to not the number of berths provided, but their location. And finally, signage waivers are required to allow a greater square footage of signage, as well as a waiver from underlying locational regulations on signage. To speak a bit more to the loading waiver, the applicants are proposing an off-street loading area with 3 berths. This actually exceeds the 2 berths required by zoning. However, the loading area is located in an unenclosed area within 50 feet of the intersection of West 22nd Street and Ocean Way, and would be located within 60 feet of a residential zoning district. Loading berths as proposed in these areas are not permitted by the underlying zoning, and therefore a loading waiver is requested. For the underlying signage regulations, total sign area is limited to 150 square feet per frontage. Further, signage is not permitted to be mounted on the roof of a building, to project more than 12 inches across a street line, or to include advertisements. The applicants are requesting modifications to allow a total sign area of 6,539 square feet, including seasonal and event-only signage, as well as permanent signage for the provision of an illuminated sign on the roof of the child's building. Further, the applicants are proposing advertising signage to be deployed on the interior of the temporary fencing to be erected during events. As such, a signage waiver is being requested. Here I will discuss the zoning text amendment and special permit actions being requested. Below is a summary of the new findings here. To approve the special permit, the CPC must find the following. First, that vehicular traffic will be minimized through residential areas, and there will be consideration of rapid transit infrastructure to serve the proposed use. These conditions are standard for all arenas, auditoriums, and stadiums throughout the city. The CPC must further find that pedestrian circulation and queuing areas will be provided to ensure nearby residences, parks, and other publicly accessible open areas are minimally affected. The CPC must find that noise attenuation features will be included to reduce arena-related noise to surrounding areas, and that a signage plan will be submitted to ensure signs will have minimal impact on surrounding areas. The CPC must find that a reduction of required parking won't have undue impacts on the area, and that a loading plan must be submitted to ensure loading berths and operational needs are provided for and are adequate for the proposed use. Here you can see a summary of the remaining 3 actions proposed. As noted, a portion of Lot 123, which was previously unable to be acquired by the city and added to the project area, will now be acquired and added to the project area. A disposition of the entirety of the project area, including the newly added lots 79 and 81, which make up the expanded open space, and the portion of Lot 123 is being proposed. As noted, this new disposition will essentially replace a disposition approved in 2013 and will be restricted to the terms and conditions of the new special permit. Finally, Lot 130, which is the child's building, and the newly acquired portion of Lot 123 will have a separate disposition, which is pursuant to underlying zoning. This image here further delineates some of the dispositions and acquisitions included in the project today. The full project area, which is outlined in the dashed yellow line, will be part of a disposition to EDC, which is restricted to the new special permit. This disposition is proposed to include the expanded project area, including the new lots 79 and 81, as well as the newly acquired portion of Lot 123. An additional disposition approval pursuant to zoning is sought for the triangle outlined for the area shaded in red, which is Lot 130 and the portion of Lot 123. This separate disposition can only be utilized if these lots are no longer subject to the proposed special permit. The intention is for this disposition to be utilized only after the amphitheater is no longer in use, so that the child's building can continue to be maintained and tenanted, regardless of the expiration of the special permit governing the amphitheater. In summary, the applicants are requesting 5 actions. A zoning text amendment to authorize the CPC to permit an amphitheater via special permit, an application for said special permit to allow the amphitheater, an acquisition of a portion of Lot 123, a restricted disposition of the full expanded project area, and a separate disposition of Lot 130 and a portion of newly acquired Lot 123 to allow maintenance and operations of the child's building unrestricted to the conditions of the proposed special permit. These actions will facilitate the continued operation of the amphitheater, taking into account modifications that have been made since 2016, as well as the disposition of an enlarged project area to include additional open space on the site, as well as a portion of Lot 123. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks very much. A lot in there. Before we move forward and certify this, let me see if there are any questions. Okay, we'll pick it up at the hearing. Thank you very much, David. Great. Let's move on.
The third item on our agenda is a certification of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Queens Community District 1. Our presenter is Colin Ryan.
Hello, Colin. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a private application by the Catholic Medical Mission Board, CMMB, in the Ravenswood section of Queens Community District 1 on the properties located at 3301, 3302, and 3310 11th Street. The applicant proposes a zoning map amendment from an R5 to a special mixed-use district designated MX23, pairing an R7A residential district with an M14 manufacturing district. Additionally, the applicant proposes a zoning text amendment to map a mandatory inclusionary housing area. These actions would facilitate the development of a new mixed-use 10-story development with approximately 14,000 square feet of light industrial, 9,000 square feet of commercial, 3,300 square feet of community facility, and 258 dwelling units, 77 to be made permanently income restricted pursuant to option 2. The community facility and light industrial space would be operated by the Catholic Medical Mission Board for their offices and food distribution operations, while providing additional retail space and housing, including affordable housing. The project area is shaded here in teal. It's located in Ravenswood, a smaller neighborhood within Western Astoria, with a mix of residential and industrial uses. Just off the bottom right side of this map are the campus-style Ravenswood houses and Queensview apartments. Open space in the area includes Rainey Park and the Socrates Sculpture Park to the west along the East River. The project area has good access to transit, being served by both the Q103 and Q104 bus lines. The project area is also approximately 3/4 of a mile away from the Broadway train station served by the N&W lines and approximately a half mile away from the Astoria stop served by the NYC ferry. In 1961, the project area was mapped to its current R5 district, despite the strong industrial nature of this area of Ravenswood. Blocks directly to the north, west, and south have been rezoned in recent years to include medium-density residential districts mapped with MIH. In the case of the blocks to the north and south of the project area, the sites were rezoned to mixed-use districts within the special MX23 district as proposed for this project area. I'll speak more on this on the next slide. The surrounding area consists of a mix of industrial, residential, commercial, and community facility uses. South of Broadway and west of 13th Street is predominantly industrial, while north of Broadway is predominantly mixed use and residential. Here we have a closer view of the project area in context with its immediate surroundings. The western portion of the project area is currently improved with the one-story warehouse occupied by the Catholic Medical Mission Board's distribution center. The eastern portion is improved with the one-story garage occupied by automobile repair uses. The blocks directly to the north, west, and south of the site are all single-story warehouses, but were the subject of rezonings within the last 7 years. The Commission may remember the 2018 Vernon Boulevard and Broadway rezoning to R7A C13 and R6B on the block to the west, the 2021 Broadway and 11th Street rezoning to M14 R7A on the block to the north, and the 2022 11th Street and 34th Avenue rezoning to M15 R6A to the south. To the east is the Long Island City High School and the recently landmarked Barker 11 and Company Office Pavilion, which is attached to another single-story warehouse. Further west is the Noguchi Museum and the Sculpture Garden, dedicated to the works of artist and landscape architect Isamu Noguchi. Here's a view of the development site facing southeast at the intersection of 11th Street and 33rd Avenue, where you can see the warehouse used by the Catholic Medical Mission Board for food distribution. Here is another view, this time looking at 12th Street, facing southwest from the development site on the right, and the landmarked Barker 11 and Company Office Pavilion on the left. And here's one last view of 33rd Road facing west, with the development site on the right. To facilitate this development, the applicant proposes a zoning map amendment to change from an R5 district to an M14 R7A district, indicated by the dotted black line on the image on the right. The applicant also proposes a zoning map amendment to map MIH to the project area. According to the applicant, the additional density is appropriate based on proximity to transit, wide streets in the existing context north of Broadway. The mixed-use district would also reinforce existing land use patterns in the area while introducing new residential and complementary non-residential uses. Excuse me. M14 R7A districts are designed to permit a variety of uses to promote a mixed-use environment. Apologies. Compared to the existing R5, the M14 R7A would permit an increase in residential FAR up to 3.6 when including MIH units, and an increase in community facility FAR up to 2.0. The maximum building height would increase from 40 feet to 115 feet. And additionally, this mixed-use district would newly permit commercial and manufacturing uses up to 2.0 FAR. No parking is required as this project area is within the inner transit zone. The applicant also proposes a zoning text amendment to map MIH options 1 and 2 across the project area. This slide shows a ground floor plan and entrances for the proposed development. The applicant proposes to maintain curb cuts on 12th Street and 33rd Avenue to support the warehouses to be operated by the Catholic Medical Mission Board's operations. Entrances to their office space would be located between two entrances to the warehouse in the corner of 12th Street and 33rd Avenue. Retail and residential entrances would be concentrated on the western side of the block facing 11th Street. As indicated by the red line and seen in the WRP, the project area is within both the 0.2% and 1% annual chance floodplain. A WRP document has been prepared in conjunction with this application. This application requires a racial equity report because it would increase the residential floor area by at least 50,000 square feet. The AMI for Community District 1 is approximately 79,000, which is higher than the AMIs for the Borough of Queens and New York City overall. The applicant proposes to provide 26 income restricted units at 40% AMI, 14 units at 60% AMI, and another 26 units at 80% AMI, with estimated monthly rents ranging from $1,134 for studios to $3,370 for 3-bedroom units. Estimated average incomes ranging from $45,400 for a 1-person household to $140,000 for a 5-person household. Of the approximately 190,000 residents within Community District 1, 15% identify as Asian, 7% identify as Black, and 25% identify as Hispanic, and 47% identify as white. Between 2010 and 2020, the area saw a 7% increase in total population. This was coupled with an increase in all population groups aside from the Hispanic Latino group, which did not significantly change. In conclusion, the applicant proposes a zoning map amendment to change from an R5 district to an M14 R7A district and a zoning text amendment to map an MIH area. These actions would facilitate the development of a new 10-story mixed-use building with a total of 258 units, of which 77 will be made permanently income restricted under MIH. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so before we certify this item, let's see if there are questions here. Okay, we'll pick it up down the line. Thank you very much. This item is certified. Let's move to our pre-public hearing items. We have a bunch of them, items 4 to 9 on today's agenda. I've asked the staff to give you the brief update, including the Community Board and Borough President Rex, so we should be able to move through these with some level of speed. And let's move to calendar item 4.
Okay, the 4th item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of a notice of intent to acquire office space in the Bronx Community District 6. Our presenter is Cassandra Manriquez.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I'm presenting 555 East Tremont Avenue. This is an application to acquire office space by the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services, or DCAS, and the Department of Human Resources Administration, or HRA. This map shows the approximate location of 555 East Tremont. It's within Community District 6 of the Bronx. The applicants are DCAS and HRA, and they're seeking to acquire office space for HRA's continued use pursuant to Section 195 of the New York City Charter. DCAS and HRA are seeking to acquire all of the office space at 555 East Tremont, which will be used by HRA. There are several programs at this location, including temporary cash assistance, supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits, or SNAP, and adult protective services. HRA has occupied this building since 1968. Their current lease is set to expire on August 31st, and at that point, HRA will be renting the space on a month-to-month basis, and they are applying for a new 20-year lease. This is an aerial view of 555 East Tremont, which is highlighted in yellow. There are two different entrances. The staff entrance is on Tremont Avenue, and the client entrance is on Monterey Avenue. Tremont Avenue is a major and busy two-way commercial corridor. The BX36 runs along Tremont, plus there's a parking lane in each direction. On the map, you can see Walter Gladwin Park to the south. It's 15 acres and a major community asset. The Tremont neighborhood is densely populated, making it a good fit for HRA's location. This is an area map with the site outlined in red. The area immediately surrounding the site is zoned C4-5X, which allows for commercial and residential uses. As for public facilities, there's a post office, several high schools, and several faith-based organizations nearby. This is a view of the site. It's a 6-story office building, which again, HRA completely occupies. This is an image of the client entrance on Monterey Avenue. As you can see, this building has an inactive ground floor and no windows. HRA serves approximately 1,150 clients a day. This is the staff entrance on Tremont Avenue. There are approximately 165 employees at this location. This is an image of the second floor. As you can see, it captures a busy client waiting area. This is an image of the waiting area on the 5th floor, where you can see clients filling out forms and checking in with staff. The applicant states that they meet the 4 fair share criteria related to suitability of cost effectiveness, operational efficiency, consistency of location, and supporting the development of New York City's regional business districts. This concludes my presentation. The applicant team is scheduled to present at the public hearing on August 13th, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. We'll pick this up on our public hearing, but before we do, we have questions from Vice Chair Knuckles and Commissioner Mudding.
Great.
Well, let me answer, or attempt to answer my own question. Is it the fact that the owner won't sell to the city? Is that the reason why the city doesn't own this building after nearly 60 years of occupancy?
That's a good question. I can forward that to the applicant.
I think I leased this building 30 years ago.
Somebody before you did that too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Mudding.
So, Commissioner Knuckles pointed out the obvious, and it is a concern, being that the city has been in it for a very long time. And you, Cassandra, thank you for the presentation, stated the obvious. I mean, this is a building that has a nondescript first floor that's not inviting, unwelcoming, that I've seen 62 years now. Maybe 61, because at 1 to 2 I couldn't figure anything out, right? But it is a building that is not inviting. The staff entrance is horrible. The visitor entrance is horrible. You don't feel welcome there. Is HRA planning? Let me first ask my first question. What's on the first floor?
The first floor.
If you happen to know, if you don't know, that's quite all right.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked the question is because this is a very good opportunity to open up those first floor openings that were there at one point, and allow some visibility into the building so people can understand what's going on there. The corner Chamford, so it would be difficult to have that corner as an entrance because it is a very busy intersection. But this at one point was the city hall hub for the borough of the Bronx, and it was very prestigious, and now it doesn't feel that way. This is a very prominent building. You can see it from 3rd Avenue. You can see it coming up Tremont. You can see it coming down Tremont. And it would be interesting to see if the city can work with the owner to open up some of those openings to allow some visual appeal into the buildings. Also, 20-year lease. Is the owner doing anything at this point to comply with Local Law 97 and the electrification requirements required by the City of New York? That's one. And second, anything with white, blue, or green roofs?
I can ask. Sure.
I would appreciate it. Thank you, Cassandra.
Sure, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we'll pick this up on Wednesday. Thank you, Cassandra. Okay, next up.
The fifth item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of zoning map and zoning text amendments, special permits, and the disposition of city-owned property, also in the Bronx, Community District 7. Our presenter is Camila Thomas.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon. This is an application by 8th Regiment Partners, LLC, and New York City Department of Economic Development Corporation, D.C. The New York City Department of Administrative Services, DCAS, is an applicant for the requested disposition action. This application was previously presented at the May 19th review session and was referred to the Community Board and then Borough President. The development site is comprised of Block 3247, Lots 2 and 10, and located in the Kingsbridge Heights neighborhood of the Bronx, Community District 7. This is an aerial view of the proposed project site and its surrounding areas. The development site is surrounded by medium-density residential uses and institutions. Educational and healthcare facilities in the area include the Lehman College, elementary schools PS 86 and PS 340, the Walton High School campus, and the James J. Peters Veterans Hospital. The area is well served by public transit. The subway lines serving the area are the 4-train line, with a station directly east of the development site, and the B and D lines a few blocks away. Open spaces in the surrounding area include the Jerome Reservoir Park, St. James Park, and Aqueduct Walk, a linear park south of the development site. To facilitate the proposal, the applicants are requesting the following land use actions: disposition of city-owned land for both lots that compose the development site, 2 special permits that allow for an indoor arena and a public garage, a zoning map amendment to rezone the development site from C44 to an M14A R72 MX district, and 2 zoning text amendments to modify arena special permit requirements and establish an MX district. The proposed development has 3 components: the adaptive reuse of the historical Kingsbridge Armory, a new residential building located north of the Armory, and public open space. The Armory would be adaptively reused and reprogrammed with approximately 567,706 square feet of new uses, including a 17-person indoor arena, entertainment uses, light manufacturing, commercial office space, and community facilities. The applicant proposes 240 parking spaces at the cellar level of the Kingsbridge Armory. Directly north of the Armory, the applicant proposes to build a new 16-story residential building with approximately 500 units of affordable housing and retail space on the ground floor. The applicant also proposes approximately 65,000 square feet of new public open space to be located in the areas west and south of the Armory. The proposal was subject to the City Environmental Quality Review seeker. The Mayor's Office for Environmental Coordination was the lead agency. A notice of completion of the draft environmental impact statement was issued on May 16, 2025. The DEIS identified adverse impacts with respect to air quality, noise, transportation, and construction. No other significant impacts were identified. Mitigation measures are identified in the DIS and will be further explored in the final environmental impact statement. So after review session and certification of this application in May 19th, Community Board 7 in the Bronx held a public hearing on June 3rd for the application, and on June 17th, the board voted in favor of the application with 19 in favor and 3 against. The Bronx Borough President held a public hearing for the application on July 17th and submitted a favorable recommendation with conditions. The Board President's conditions include a mechanism for transparency and community oversight on commitments, local and union hiring, appropriate mitigation measures for environmental and traffic impacts, and increasing affordability and size of the proposed units. The complete Board President recommendation is included in the briefing packages and are available for public viewing as well on our website. Since certification of the project in May 19th, the applicant has updated the proposed signage based on review and comments from LPC, so the Landmarks Preservation Commission. The applicant proposes to add more signage to all 3 facades of the Armory. Updates to signage will remain in scope, and the Department of City Planning is working with the applicant to ensure that updated signage remains in scope. The applicant will provide a detailed overview of the proposed additions to signage plan at the public hearing on Wednesday. On screen, the drawing on the slide is showing the proposed signage at time of certification, that's colored in yellow, and then marked in red are the new proposed signage as approved by the LPC. So this is the bigger facade, or the southern facade of the Armory. This is the western elevation. This is the one that's fronting Reservoir Avenue. So again, in yellow are the proposed signage as you saw it on May 19th, and in red are the small additions to signage. This is the eastern elevation. Again, in yellow are the proposed signage, and in red the small additions as approved by the LPC. And to summarize my presentation, the proposal is for the adaptive reuse of the Kingsbridge Armory to include a 17-person arena, light manufacturing, community facility, and commercial spaces, along with a new 16-story building with approximately 500 affordable rental housing units and close to 65,000 square feet of public open space. The proposal would be facilitated by the approval of a disposition of city-owned property, a zoning map amendment to rezone the project site from C44 to M14A R72, 2 zoning text amendments to increase indoor arena capacity and establish the proposed MX district, and 2 special zoning permits to allow for a public parking garage and allow the proposed 17,000-person arena and modification to signage requirements. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I've got, we'll pick this up Wednesday. I've got questions from Commissioner Marin, Commissioner Benjamin, Commissioner Goodridge, Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Camilla, thank you. Always a pleasure to see you. I know that when this came to certification, I had specific questions regarding the plazas and how their designs were going to be, what kind of seating was going to be there. Has the applicant elaborated on that?
They have been working closely with not just the Department of Transportation, but also in their team to elaborate and keep working on the plan. I believe they will show up a detailed version of the plan on Wednesday.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The second question relates to the housing in the rear. You noted that LPC, Landmarks Preservation Commission, has taken a look at this building for appropriate signage. Have they taken a look at the appendage that's being added at the north side of the building, which is the residential portion? And the reason why I asked the question is because none of the language of the building speaks to the language of the Armory.
Yeah, I believe Landmarks and Preservation Commission looked at the entirety of the proposal. So part of that was looking at the proposal for the proposed residential building. I think it would be best for the applicant to speak to what sort of comments the LPC gave. It's our understanding that the LPC has been focusing more on the Armory, being the main source of historical wealth. Yeah. So I think the applicant would be best to describe that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could understand that. An answer is better than no answer. So understanding why we landed at this position, specifically in a building as prominently standing out in the community as this, I just think that the housing in the back could have been designed a little, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, designed a little bit better to be meeting the same language that the Armory is. This has been 30, 40 years in the making to get here. So thank you, Camilla. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Benjamin?
2 questions. The first is just, did Landmarks issue a certificate of appropriateness, a certificate of no effect, and could we get whatever it is that they issued?
Yes. So Landmarks Preservation hasn't issued the certificate of appropriateness because that's done right before they begin construction. What they will issue before the vote, I believe, is the binding report. And that's, I believe, is still in the works, but we can ask the applicant to expand on where LPC is at in terms of their review.
I would like to see what we can see, because, and I had a question about the signage.
Yes.
Since LPC did not, it's not clear to me from those slides whether LPC's comments were in addition to the signage proposed or instead of the signage proposed, because it appears that Landmarks did not approve illuminated signage, but the plans that were submitted in May all have illuminated signage. So when you say that the orange or red is proposed signage approved by LPC, was the yellow also approved?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think what's a bit confusing is it's kind of implying that LPC asked them to add more signage.
They did not,
They didn't. So what we understand is that the applicant, in LPC's eyes, might have been a bit too conservative in terms of signage. So they were saying that they would be open to having more signage. So LPC looked at both the yellow and also, I believe, maybe another proposal from the applicant in terms of adding more signage, and LPC said that they would be okay with adding more. It's not that LPC asked them or request to add the stuff in
And
red.
they were okay with illuminated signage?
Yeah, I believe so. I think, and the applicant can speak to this a bit more. I think the LPC has been, from our understanding, very understanding to the uses within the Armory. So they understand that a lot of signage will be needed based on, the proposed uses. So that's why I think they were very open and comfortable with different types of signage, more signage, et cetera.
Right. I'm just surprised because when it came to Madison Square Garden, LPC was not in favor of blade signs or illuminated signs. So I'm kind of curious about why they thought here. And also in the rear, which is facing the residential building, why they thought that the signage, illuminated signage, would be appropriate.
I don't think there will be any signage facing the new proposed housing, but this one will be facing housing.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they could be prepared and maybe we could get from LPC whatever it is we can get, I'd like to understand why they think this signage or what they think about this signage is appropriate and what the signage would be.
Yeah, we can definitely relay that to the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Goodrich?
So the Northwest Bronx Coalition apparently owns or will own 20% of this project or of the new Kingsbridge Armory. Can you talk more about that? And then my second question to that would be, are there any other community groups that have, that are stakeholders in this?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was on our understanding that the Northwest Bronx Community Coalition will own a portion of it as part of community benefits agreement for community ownership. I can personally, or I don't think the department has been, fully briefed on those conversations. To be honest with you, I think it will be best for the applicant to speak on not just the stakeholders in the area, but also what the Northwest Bronx Community Coalition will have within the Armory.
Okay, and do you know if there are any other community groups that will have ownership?
I think so. I cannot say for sure which ones. I think the applicant has also been working on that a lot. Unfortunately, they haven't really fully briefed us on it, but I think on Wednesday, they'll speak a lot about not just community partners and nonprofits that will have, space within the Armory, but also other tenants that could be, leasing within the Armory.
Is that common? It's one of the first times I've heard it. At least at the commission. And I guess I'd like to know how common it is, because it seems like it's something that we should pursue to make easier, or at least suggest for future projects of this size.
Are you talking about if it's common for a community group to have stake in a project? I'm not sure, but I can say for the Armory, since 2023, and even before, EDC has been very much hard at work engaging with the community. They released a vision plan, and the Northwest Bronx Community Coalition was like a big partner in that
to make sure that the community had stake in that. It was also included in the Borough President's recommendations for more community oversight. So I think for this project, especially I think the council member as well has been asking for a lot of community oversight. So I would say it's a great flag also to ask for more of that. I'm not sure how common it is, but for this project was a main piece to have community input.
My last question, it was in the presentation, but I'd love to hear more. A council member, Pierina Sanchez, she raised the air quality, which was noted in the EIS as a significant adverse impact. She raised this as an issue, and I know that in the FEIS, it has some like general mitigation strategies. I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about that, because especially with the Bronx, air pollution is a bigger issue than other boroughs.
Yeah, I think we can get back to you on that. Since we are not the lead agency, we've been a bit like stepping away from the review of that. But we can definitely get you materials on that before Wednesday at the hearing. But I'm sure the applicant will also speak to the FEIS and environmental impacts.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to wrap up with Commissioner Osorio and then back to Maureen for a second.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation. And like Commissioner Goodrich, I will have a series of technical questions on the sustainability measures on Wednesday. But in preparation for that, I had a question for the department. So given the fact that we have the two components working together here, and there's already important commitments, for example, the solar panels that are being proposed for the Armory, and then LEED Gold certification, et cetera, for the buildings. I'm wondering why aren't we exploring the ultra low energy designation, building designation here, as approved through the City of Yes for carbon neutrality, to make sure that we actually achieve net zero, or at least try to achieve net zero. I'm wondering what are the constraints or the opportunities that the department sees in exploring that. This would be a tremendous opportunity to actually do that.
Those are great questions. I think we are, or we're a bit tied as a department with the things that are within our purview. We have suggested, I think, and we've discussed with the applicant a lot in terms of design and urban design considerations. I think that was brought up at some point, but we're also sort of in the terms of suggesting and not requiring. But I'm sure that the applicant can speak to, how do they get to better design, environmental quality, and the LEED gold standard that I think they were pursuing as part of the design. But that's a great question.
Well, I appreciate your response, but I do think this is in your purview. I mean, this is a tool that is created to use zoning to advance in that regard. And so I'm wondering, if not, which is I'm not challenging that, but I'm just want to understand why aren't we pursuing the benefit of that incentive in terms of maximizing the energy production here?
Yeah, I think I believe from that City of Yes amendment, it was not something or things that came out of that were no requirements. They were just tools for people to use. The applicant was not, they were surely aware of all the City of Yes for housing opportunity, for carbon neutrality, and for CEO as well. They were aware of those, but they chose not to use them. I think that's why I was speaking to us strongly suggesting, but not being able to require anything of them. But I think that's, again, a question that they can answer as to why they decided not to pursue those.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that and look forward to continue that conversation, because it's such an important tool that was created, but it hasn't been really, I don't think it's been used. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, and it sounds like exactly the type of project where we should be achieving or trying to achieve net zero, not just energy efficiency.
Yep, that's a great point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Marin?
Thank you, Chair. Kamala, could you also find out, to the point of community groups and ownership, regardless of the number of community groups, can you find out from the applicant, is the stake an equity stake, or is it also a stake of fee simple / condominium? Are they going to be splitting up the spaces within and creating condominiums for these community groups, or they're just going to get an equity stake in the project. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, we can get that to you before Wednesday.
Yeah, because, you know, at the end of the day, if you're looking for stability, if they're looking for stability in these community groups, to me, it would make sense that they have their own space, their conduit space, where they are truly achieving that independence of a community organization, aside from being part of the Armory overall.
Oh, thank you. We'll relate to them and get to you before Wednesday, for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thank you, Camilla. That's great. We'll pick this one up on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next, item 6.
The sixth item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of a disposition of city-owned property, site selections, and an acquisition in Brooklyn Community Districts 5 and 16. Our presenter is Jonah Rogoff.
All right, Jonah. Hi.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. All right, so this is an application returning for pre-hearing by NYPD, EDC, DCAS, and New York City Parks for a joint acquisition and site selection and disposition of city-owned property and 2 site selection actions to enable the relocation of NYPD Transit Bureau's 33rd District building to a new 35,000 square foot facility, along with the creation of new public open spaces by Callahan Kelly Playground and Van Sinderen Plaza near the Broadway Junction area of Brooklyn within Community Districts 5 and 16. Just a brief refresher, Broadway Junction is one of the city's busiest transit hubs, and this project is part of past planning and ongoing investments in the area by the city and state. In 2023, the city and MTA announced over $500 million of capital investments in and around the station, including accessibility upgrades to the station itself and nearby public realm improvements, including an extension of Callahan Kelly Playground and more open space at Van Sinderen Plaza. These 3 project sites are all oriented along Van Sinderen Avenue in the immediate vicinity of the station, with the recently renovated approximately 3-acre Callahan Kelly Playground directly to the west of the first project site. And just to walk you through the proposed project and actions, there are 3 parts, which are all, again, related to the city's broader public realm improvements in the area. The first is an extension of Callahan Kelly Playground, which would create 20,000 additional square feet of public open space outside the Broadway Junction Station House, where the Transit Police Building is currently located. This requires the relocation of the Transit Police Department building, which would be facilitated by site selection action. The second component is the development of Van Sinderen Plaza, 5,000 square foot public open space, which would also be facilitated by site selection action. The third project component is the relocation of NYPD's Transit Bureau building from its current location on the first project site to a new building south of Van Sinderen, building to the south along Van Sinderen Avenue on private property, which would be facilitated by first the joint acquisition and site selection, and then EDC also requested disposition to enable the city to sell unused development rights to an adjacent owner and also to allow in light and air easements. All 3 of these projects would go before the Public Design Commission, or PDC, before construction. This application was split across 2 community boards, boards 5 and 16. On the site selection action for Callahan Kelly Playground's extension, the joint acquisition and site selection action, and the disposition of city-owned property, Community Board 16 voted to approve with conditions. On the site selection action for Van Sinderen Plaza, Community Board 5 voted to disapprove with conditions. And then I'll just provide a brief summary of those recommendations. So on May 20th, Board 16 held a public hearing and voted to approve with 1 condition, just seeking clarification on how litter will be managed across the sites. And then Community Board 5 held a public hearing on June 17th, and on June 25th voted to disapprove the application with a few conditions, recommending first that EDC provide detailed schematics or floor plans for the NYPD's transit site. Second, that NYPD remove community jail cells, or essentially like holding cells, from the plan. Third, that EDC exhaust all possibilities to create an opportunity for the purchase of the full 1508 Herkimer site. That's where the PD building is proposed. And then finally, to revisit plans for public parking in the scope of work for collaborative efforts and funding. So asking for parking to be provided for the community board or for residents of the area. On June 25th, the borough president submitted a recommendation to approve the project without conditions. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Jonah. All right, we'll pick this one up on Wednesday. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to number 7.
The 7th item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 18. Our presenter is Kyra Cuevas.
Hello, good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Still waiting for the slides, so you can respond. It's okay. All right, so today I will be presenting on an application for zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment at 5502 Flatlands Avenue, which was first heard on May 5th and was certified out to the community board on May 9th. This is a private application by 5502 Flat LLC to facilitate the construction of a new 7-story mixed-use building with 36 units and ground floor retail. The applicant is seeking a zoning map amendment from an R3-2 district to an R6A and C2-4 district, and a zoning text amendment to map an MIH area with options 1 and 2. This project is located within Community District 18 in the Flatlands neighborhood of Brooklyn and is within Council Member Narcissus District. The proposed development will be approximately 50,000 square feet mixed-use building that contains 7,000 square feet of ground commercial floor area and 42,000 square feet of residential floor area, which would house 36 dwelling units, 11 of which would be income restricted. The building would be approximately 70 feet tall, with a setback facing Flatlands Avenue at the 6th floor, and a setback facing the rear of the building on the 1st floor. An outdoor recreational space would be located atop the 1st floor, as the building's courtyard will serve as a common area for all tenants. The building would provide 17 bicycle parking spaces and will provide a parking garage for 15 parking spaces. The applicant is proposing a zoning map amendment from an R3-2 zoning district to an R6A/C24 district to facilitate the construction of the proposed development. R6A is a contextual zoning district that permits a residential FAR of 3.9 with MIH and community facility FAR of 3.0 with a base height of 65 feet and a max building height of 95 feet. Beyond the greater transit zone, parking spaces are required for 25% of market rate units. C24 districts are commercial overlays that facilitate ground floor commercial uses up to 2.0 FAR when mapped in R6A districts. The applicant is also proposing a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to map MIH options 1 and 2, each of which require income-restricted housing set-asides, where option 1 requires 25% of units at an average of 60% AMI, and option 2 requires 30% of units with an average of 80% AMI. Since the beginning of the MIH program, no MIH areas have been mapped in Community District 18. The Community Board met and voted to disapprove this application with 35 against and 1 abstention. The Borough President held a hearing on July 29th and submitted a recommendation of approval on the same evening. At certification, we received a few questions from the City Planning Commission, and the applicant is prepared to respond on Wednesday at the public hearing. However, regarding a question from one of the commissioners regarding a storm flooding infrastructure question on Avenue J, we would like to add that the last significant infrastructure project was a DEP upgrade in 2019, which installed new box sewers near Fresh Creek and replaced more than 2 miles of new, high-level storm sewers and nearly 4 miles of water mains to reduce flooding and improve water quality near Jamaica Bay. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will see this one on Wednesday. Thank you, Kyra.
Thank you.
The eighth item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 13. Our presenter is Hanif Yazdi, and I believe Commissioner Ramprashad is recused.
Good afternoon. All right, just to recap, this application is for zoning map amendment, zoning text amendment. It's brought by SLG Assets Incorporated for a zoning map amendment from R5 to R7A and R7A C24, and a zoning text amendment to map a mandatory inclusionary housing area to facilitate the construction of a new 8-story mixed-use building with approximately 17,000 zoning square feet, or 5.01 FAR, including 19 dwelling units, 4 to 6 of which will be permanently income restricted. The application certified on April 21st, 2025. The applicant proposes an 8-story mixed-use building, and with 19 residential units. Building will rise to approximately 85 feet with an additional 10-foot rooftop bulkhead. 6-story portion will step down near the adjacent R5 district. 7 attended off-street parking spaces will be voluntarily provided, accessed via Nixon Court. A rooftop recreation area is also planned. The applicant seeks a zoning map amendment from R5 to R7A C24 for the development site and R7A for the adjacent lot across the street. Rezoning would provide a contiguous R7A district fronting Ocean Parkway, bringing the overbuilt lot of 2650 Ocean Parkway into better compliance. The site is within the Special Ocean Parkway District, which was adopted in 1977 in response to community concerns about overdevelopment of community facilities and to preserve the residential character of Ocean Parkway. The existing zoning is R5, mapped since 1961 and never modified. The surrounding area includes a mix of residential, institutional, and limited commercial uses. Residential apartment buildings of 6 to 12 stories are common, especially between Shell Road and Ocean Parkway. The area also includes major institutions like Coney Island Hospital, 14 stories immediately to the east, schools like PS 209 and Lincoln High School. 2 Parks Department playground areas, West Playground and Grady Playground, are within walking distance. The elevated F train serving communities in Coney Island to the south and Gravesend and Kensington to the north stop at Neptune Avenue Station, approximately half a mile west of the project area. The B1, B4, and B36 buses are available just south of the project area at Ocean Parkway and Shore Parkway. These buses serve southern Brooklyn, linking the neighborhoods of Bay Ridge and Coney Island to Sheepshead Bay. Bicycle access is available via Ocean Parkway, a protected bike lane that extends from Kensington to Brighton Beach. Community Board 13 held a public hearing on this application on May 28th, 2025, and on June 25th, 2025, voted to disapprove the proposal. 5 in favor, 33 opposed, and 1 abstention. Borough President held a hearing on this item on July 16, 2025, and on July 25th, 2025, approved the project, stating that it would, quote, increase the number of approved MIH units in CD 13 by 3%. The Borough President also believes the commercial overlay is appropriate in this location, as there are few opportunities for local retail and services in the surrounding area. And with that, I'll take your question.
Great, thank you very much. It was 33 opposed to a resolution in favor, right?
5 in favor of the, it's a little bit...
5 in favor of a resolution to approve, or 5 in favor of a resolution to disapprove?
Yes, there was a...
They turned out against the project by a vote of 33 to 5, basically.
That's right.
Is what we're saying. Okay, I just want to make sure the language is right in here, but, okay, it was a resolution to approve, and 33 voted against.
That's right.
Okay, all right, thank you. We will pick this one up on Wednesday, but we first have a question from Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much. I remember that when we certified this, you and I had a conversation about how, interesting the situation is here, because the proposal, the lot is within the 100-year floodplain, but actually some parts of the lot are not, and then the adjacent lots are not. And so I'm wondering if, but these blocks, I think, lend themselves to mitigation strategies to allow and increase residential development. And so I was wondering if, where we left it at that point was whether the department had identified structural measurements that could be taken. Of course, we're looking at this proposal right now. I'm just interested in understanding how to improve the conditions in this lot going forward to facilitate development, not just here, but in other lots that, again, are within the 100-year floodplain, are above the highway, next to other housing buildings that are not.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I've raised it with the applicant team, and I've alerted them that they would be asked about it, and so they should be prepared to address that on Wednesday. Their application materials do mention, and we've signed off, our WRP team has signed off, and so on. But it is something that I think they should go into more detail about when asked on Wednesday.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Again, this is an area that is sort of like at the fringe of sort of the floodplain, and it would be useful to think about all the different strategies that we can come to play to facilitate development there if possible. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 9, 464 Ovington Avenue rezoning.
The 9th item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of zoning map and zoning text amendments in Brooklyn Community District 10. There were public comments and testimonies in your materials, and our presenter is Katie Martin.
Hello, Katie.
Hello. Good afternoon. This is a pre-hearing presentation, and I should wait for my slides. Yeah. Perfect. This is a pre-hearing presentation on 464 Ovington Avenue, which certified on April 21st, 2025. This is a private application from Geffen Management, LLC, requesting a zoning map amendment from an R3X Special Bay Ridge District to an R6A Special Bay Ridge District, as well as a zoning text amendment to Appendix F. These actions would facilitate the development of a new 8-story residential development, including over 36,094 square feet of residential space, or 40 dwelling units, 10 of which would be permanently income restricted, and 18 cellar-level parking spaces. The project's located at 464 Ovington Avenue, between 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue in Bay Ridge, Community District 10 in southern Brooklyn. It's located in City Council District 47 with Council Member Justin Brennan. The zoning map amendment seeks to rezone the project area from an R3X to an R6A. R6A districts allow a maximum residential FAR of 3.9 with MIH and an FAR of 3 for community facility uses. The maximum building height is 95 feet. Parking would be provided in a cellar level. The applicant is currently proposing 18 accessory parking spaces, 10 spaces more than are required by zoning. On June 16th, Brooklyn Community Board 10 voted to disapprove this application, 37-0 with 1 abstention. And on July 16th, the Brooklyn Borough President held a public hearing and voted to recommend approval. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions. I also want to note, that during the review session, Commissioner Osorio, you asked about the unit mix for the proposed development, as well as energy efficiency standards planned for the proposed development. We've asked the applicant team to speak more on that during the public hearing.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Katie. Great. We'll pick this up Wednesday. Thank you. All right, Sarah.
The 10th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 4211 30th Avenue rezoning. The City Council proposes to modify the zoning text amendment to Appendix F, removing MIH Option 2 and adding MIH Option 3, and staff believe these modifications are within scope.
Great. I'm going to seek assent by a voice vote here to send a scope determination letter to the council. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, ayes have it.
The 11th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 47 Hall Street rezoning. The City Council proposes to modify the zoning text amendment to Appendix F, removing MIH Option 2, and staff believe these modifications are within scope.
Again, seeking an assent by a voice vote to send that scope determination to the council. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Item 12.
12th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 236 Gold Street rezoning. The City Council proposes to modify the zoning text amendment to Appendix F, removing MIH Option 2, and staff believe these modifications are within scope.
Taking assent by a voice vote here to send that scope determination to the council. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, ayes have it. Approved. Next item on the agenda.
Next up, future votes for consideration on Wednesday, August 13th. First, we have 114 Ridgewood Place, which is a special hillsides preservation district, CPC certification in Staten Island, Community District 1. Briefing materials were included in your weekend materials. Also for consideration on Wednesday, staff have prepared reports for Claremont House, 1640 Anthony Avenue, 7801 Queens Boulevard rezoning, 535 Morgan Avenue rezoning, as well as 74 Bogart Street rezoning, which Lucia Marquez Reagan is here to present.
Great. Hi, Lucia.
Good afternoon. This is a pre-vote department recommendation for 74 Bogart Street application. Before the recommendation, the department would like to note that the borough president recommendation was recently submitted and was shared as a memo to the commission last week. The department recommends approval for 74 Bogart Street, an application for a zoning map amendment from an M12 to an M14A to facilitate a 7-story, 240,000 square foot fine art storage facility in the East Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn, Community District 1. The existing M12 zoning district was originally mapped in 1961 and allows for 2 FAR for commercial and industrial uses while requiring a significant amount of off-street parking. As noted in the North Brooklyn Industry and Innovation Plan, this area was and continues to be a dynamic and transit-accessible district with current zoning that does not facilitate the expansion of jobs or growth of a business hub close to residential neighborhoods. Further, an M14A district does not require parking, encourages right-sized parking needs for the site, which is located across Bogart Street from the Morgan Avenue L station. The greater density allowed by an M14A would also provide an increased capacity for manufacturing and commercial uses on site, allowing for the potential creation of more jobs. The North Brooklyn Industrial and Innovation Plan informed the creation of new mid-density contextual districts established by the 2024 City of Yes for Economic Opportunity citywide zoning text amendment. Overall, the department believes that an M14A is also well aligned with the height, density, and uses envisioned by the North Brooklyn Industry and Innovation Plan's growth district, and that its mapping will help implement a part of the land use framework. With respect to the applicant's illustrative proposal, the department recognizes that a fine art storage facility has a unique set of programming needs, which are different from other storage uses. For example, the facility intends to serve artists, museums, galleries, and institutions across New York City by providing a secure, temperature-controlled environment for the preservation and restoration of valuable art and photography. While beyond the purview of the proposed action, the department notes the applicant's willingness to address concerns by the community board and borough president, especially efforts to enliven the ground floor despite constraints associated with the protection of fine arts. In summary, the department supports this application due to its alignment with the densities and uses proposed in the North Brooklyn Industry and Innovation Plan and potential for increased job density at a transit-accessible location. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you. Next item, Sarah.
Lastly, for future votes on Wednesday, August 13th, we have the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan. Reports were prepared and a memo was included in your materials. Queens Director Lynn Zhang is here to present. Okay, let's take a moment and pivot to post-hearing follow-ups. We have ICO Senior Living, which had a public hearing at the July 30th public meeting. Lucia Capuccio is here on Zoom to present. Lucia, do you want to unmute?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
And can we swap out the slide for ICO, please?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Gorodnick and Commissioners. I'm here to present the staff pre-vote statement for ICO Senior Living. The Department of City Planning finds the applicant's request for a zoning map amendment from an R5 C12 and R5 zoning districts to C45 and C42A zoning districts, as well as a zoning text amendment to map MIH option 1 and a UDAP designation for project approval and disposition of city-owned land to be appropriate. These actions would provide 167 new dwelling units, 100% of which will be income restricted for seniors, as well as a new community facility, which will provide much needed services to both residents and the surrounding community. The proposed density in this location is appropriate due to its frontage on a wide street and immediate proximity to public transit. The proposed zoning also maintains consistency with the existing mixed-use nature of the 31st Street and Broadway corridors. Thank you very much. I will note that I know the commissioners had questions for HPD and they are working on their response, and we will share that with the commission as soon as we receive it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucia. Next, we have Domino Site B, which also had a public hearing at the July 30th public meeting. There was a memo in your materials, and Lucia Marquez-Reagan is here to present.
Hello again.
Hello again. Great. This is a post-hearing follow-up and recommendation by the department for Domino Site B, which was certified by the Commission June 2nd, and a public hearing was held July 30th, 2025. Domino Site B is a private application by Domino A Partners LLC and Domino B Partners LLC to facilitate the development of approximately 1.17 million square foot mixed-use building containing 1,262 units and 12,230 square feet of commercial uses. The development would rise to an overall maximum height of 545 feet with a podium height of 47 feet, contains 300 parking spaces, no loading berths, and 7-foot wide balconies wrapping the development on all sides. In recognition of questions posed by the Commission at the pre-hearing review session and public hearing, the department received correspondence on August 5th, 2025 from the School Construction Authority stating that the SCA declined to pursue the option to construct a school at Domino due to a multi-year decline in public school enrollment and underutilization in area schools. The SCA noted that their projections for years into the future, which include analysis for current housing statistics, do not show a seat need, that there is an excess capacity and does not require intervention to meet state class size law. SCA also shared that there is an additional site made available as a part of the 2013 rezoning along the Greenpoint waterfront, and the SCA has completed months of public engagement at the site and intends to begin design in the coming months. Therefore, a lack of need for two schools in proximity to each other in this district. The applicant has also prepared materials for the Commission, including a pedestrian wind study, summary of commitments made to the community and how they've been addressed, information regarding the applicant's energy analysis, and information regarding the Domino on-site wastewater treatment facility. And that can also be found in the Commission's briefing package. I'll pause here for questions related to the post-hearing item before department recommendation.
Commissioner Sorio, Commissioner Mann.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for this. Thanks so much for facilitating a very productive conversation with the applicant. And of course, thank you so much for the materials. I really appreciate the thoroughness and the comprehensive response. I just had a quick follow-up question. So yes, I got the summary of the commitment, the statement, general statement on wind impact, and the specific information on energy efficiency, but I didn't get, and maybe I missed it, I didn't see any information on renewables on-site or off-site toward net zero or the ultra low energy designation, if that's interesting or relevant here. And then the other thing was, no, I mean, that's the main thing. I would love to follow up if you can, just to see, storage was the energy storage was the other one, and or the potential of any type of emergency generation at the master's plan scale, given the fact that this is the last building in the puzzle.
Thank you, Commissioner. Happy to pass those questions along for the applicant to address.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Mann. I'm sorry.
All good. I just want to say thanks for following up on the SCA information. That was appreciated. Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry about that. Okay, proceed.
The department supports the goals and objectives of the overall Domino large-scale general development. The completed portions of the development include 4.8 acres of open space, including Domino Square and Domino Park, heavily used and activated spaces along the East River waterfront, as well as 4 developments that total 514,000 square feet of commercial and 1.15 million square feet of residential uses. The approvals in 2014 reflect a carefully considered site plan with generous open space and sidewalks that balance taller buildings on a smaller footprint, allowing for appropriate light and air and pedestrian circulation and experience throughout the site. The department notes that the proposed text amendment is in line with the goals of City of Yes for housing opportunity and supports the creation of a discretionary action that will result in income-restricted housing at an average of 60% AMI, providing more and deeper affordability at the site. The proposed development would, through the text amendment and special permit, provide an additional 102,000 square feet of residential uses, approximately 20,600 square feet of which would be an average of 60% AMI of the 1.16 million overall residential floor area at Site B. The department notes that to accommodate this new residential floor area, changes to the previously approved building envelope are necessary. And to accommodate this floor area, the applicant is proposing to expand the building's envelope outward horizontally and in some places into the public realm. This results in a reduction of the sidewalk width from both South 1st and South 2nd Street. With the addition of the proposed balcony, there would be a 7-foot projection over the sidewalk in public realm. The department also notes that Kent Avenue, a narrow 60-foot wide street, is heavily used by cyclists, pedestrians, cars, and trucks. While the department supports the overall extension of the sidewalk by 2 feet along Kent Avenue, the proposed balconies would project over the sidewalk beginning at the 5th story and leaving only 10 feet unobstructed to the sky. The prior approvals provided a 15-foot wide sidewalk unobstructed to the sky and a setback at 110 feet as a response to the narrowness of Kent Avenue and the original siting of the SCA school in the base of the development, necessitating a larger height and envelope. And as discussed earlier, the school is no longer a part of the proposal. While the department is supportive of the additional housing, we're concerned that the outward expansion proposed by the applicant could reduce the quality of the public realm, particularly along Kent Avenue. The department continues to encourage the applicant to re-examine the overall balcony dimensions and massing strategy and consider reallocating the floor area within the allowable envelope. This could help create a condition more consistent with the better site plan principles demonstrated successfully on the other parcels within the large scale. The department recognizes that there is a trade-off on the envelope by introducing more housing and more income-restricted housing on the site, but we hope care is taken to ensure that it does not come at the expense of reducing the public realm. The department recommends that the applicant continue to explore ways to mitigate the bulk along Kent Avenue and improve and expand the public realm. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Let's move on to the next item.
Okay, we'll go back to future votes. For Wednesday, August 13th, we have the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan. Reports were prepared. A memo was included in your materials. Jasmine Tapali is here to present and I'll also be handing out a printout of something that you just got in your package.
Hi, Jasmine.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Let me just wait for the slides to come up. All right. So we are returning today for the final review session before the scheduled vote this Wednesday for the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan. For today's session, we have a brief agenda. We're going to review 3 modifications that the department is recommending. Descriptions of the recommended modifications were included in a memo to the Commission, along with the updated draft of the special district text. So we'll also provide our staff recommendation and be available for any follow-up questions. So here's a list of the modifications. First, we are including vesting provisions to the special district text. Any new development or alteration that is filed with the Department of Buildings before plan adoption and receives DOB approval up to 1 year after plan adoption could proceed under existing zoning regulations. Second, we are updating the M18A/R9X pair district to an M18A/R91 district. This cleanup action prevents confusion around the applicability of tower regulations. Lastly, we are clarifying that streetscape regulations under ZR sections 115-14 and 3230 are not applicable to the conditions of certain zoning lots with frontages along unbuilt map streets. So the actions the commissioners are being asked to consider are the zoning map amendment, a zoning text amendment, the UDAP, and the city map change. The approval of these actions would result in over 12,000 units, of which over 4,000 units would be permanently income restricted under the largest mapped MIH area in the city. Approval of this plan would also result in the development of vacant, underutilized city-owned land for 100% affordable rental and homeownership units. Lastly, the approval of these actions would facilitate the development of 2 pedestrian plazas and the delivery of more public space in downtown Jamaica through the Station Plaza project. These changes were informed through extensive engagement over the past 2 years with community members, steering and executive committees, elected officials led by Councilmember Dr. Natasha Williams, and in close coordination with city agencies. Together, these actions help advance the community-created vision and goals of the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan while addressing the city's broader needs and challenges underscored by a citywide housing crisis. While the proposed actions include updating zoning to help Jamaica grow and thrive, we recognize that zoning alone cannot address all of the community's priorities. In parallel, we're working with partner agencies to plan strategic investments around infrastructure, the public realm, open space, and other key needs. This coordination is ongoing as a part of the neighborhood planning process. That said, we are confident that our land use actions are responsive to what we've heard through engagement and will help to advance the following community-driven goals. Jamaica's cultural diversity is one of its greatest strengths. The plan can help ensure the neighborhood remains a diverse and inclusive place into the future by creating more housing options. We specifically heard from the community about the dire need for affordable housing. The proposed actions would crucially map mandatory inclusionary housing across the project area. This would be the largest mapping of MIH across the city, projected to create approximately 4,000 permanently income-restricted homes in an area that only has voluntary rules. As part of this goal, we also heard about the need for school space. The actions include rules to exempt school floor area to encourage more space for schools on privately owned lots, which provides the city more options to site a school in the future. A strong local economy creates opportunities for everyone. The proposed actions seek to help residents build wealth and thrive by creating a supportive environment for businesses to open and grow. through expanded opportunities from more commercial, community facility, and industrial spaces. We also heard from residents about the strong need for homeownership opportunities. The proposed actions would allow the development of approximately 34 homeownership units on underutilized city-owned land. In addition to the creation of new homeownership units, the New York City Department of Housing Development and Preservation is supporting existing and future homeowners through a series of programs and services like their Homeowner Help Desk. Everyone deserves to live in a safe and healthy environment. People in Jamaica get around by walking, driving, biking, and using public transit. The Jamaica Neighborhood Plan seeks to make streets safer for all. The proposed actions would support the public realm by adding enhanced streetscape rules to major corridors through Tier C regulations. These regulations require active ground floor retail and service uses, increase facade transparency, and restricts curb cuts and parking. Additionally, we are adding street wall articulation rules to break up long building facades. Together, these rules will help create a more safer and vibrant street for everyone. So a climate and environmentally just Jamaica means everyone can live in a sustainable and healthy environment. The proposed actions would achieve this by requiring industrial businesses located near homes to operate fully enclosed. We also heard from the community about the need for new green and public spaces. The proposed actions expand opportunities for open spaces in the densest parts of Jamaica by encouraging private development to create public spaces in exchange for more floor area. There is another tool to allow us to create more spaces in Jamaica while we continue to work with parks to identify other opportunities. As a part of this goal, we also heard about the need for improving infrastructure to manage environmental challenges like flooding, air quality, and climate change. As DEP shared last week, there are a number of strategies being implemented in Southeast Queens to help support a more resilient Jamaica. So the department strongly supports the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan, which lays the foundation for a long-term vision in Southeast Queens. The neighborhood plan supports more housing that would include affordable income-restricted units, expands opportunities for jobs across different industries, and identifies improvements to the necessary infrastructure investments to help this neighborhood thrive. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks to you, Jasmine, for all of your incredible work on this and the Queens team and everybody supporting you all. We appreciate everything you've done to get us to this moment. Let me turn to Commissioner Benjamin.
Thank you, Jasmine. As you know, I had some comments about the report, and I know that there's going to be some language in the Commission's consideration about the issues, the environmental issues that are in this letter. So I appreciate that. But also, in terms of the modification on the vesting provision, one, how many applications are there in the pipeline that we know about or that buildings should know about?
I think the sum of permits that are currently out there is very minimal. I think the list is probably less than 20 developments out there that currently actually could meet both the criteria that are outlined.
Can we get something from buildings about that before we approve the vesting? I'd like to know exactly which would not be vested under existing vesting regulations or under BSA, and which ones are we really allowing?
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly we could get you that list. We did take a look when this came up, and really majority of those permits or those applications either in construction or nearly done. So it really, it was not a huge amount.
So they could go to BSA.
No, they're already completed. So they're to be built sort of in the current zoning.
I'm not sure. If they have their foundation in,
For some of them, yes.
then couldn't they vest under BSA with whatever their zoning is now, unless they're changing their building program based on the
Right,
new?
if they're changing, enlarging it or anything, then, right, then
But
they
then
will
they
need
wouldn't-
this vesting.
Right, but then they wouldn't qualify under this new vesting either.
They would, I think they would have the permits that are needed.
Well,
Right.
if they were enlarging it, they would need,
Right, if they were enlarging it, but I'm saying the current list that we looked at, they were mostly under construction or already nearly complete, so. But we can get you the list and.
okay. And the other question was, I thought there wasn't an exact definition of what application means. Does it mean that they have an approved buildings department application for construction? Or if they have an approved application for foundation, or they have an approved application for alteration? What does app mean?
I believe in the text it does say for foundations, approval for, the application for foundations.
Okay, because I didn't see that. If you could just
Yeah,
highlight it.
we'll take a closer look, but I believe I remember seeing that.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you again, Jasmine and Lynn.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay.
For our last post-hearing follow-up, pivoting back, we have Long Island City Neighborhood Plan, which had a public hearing at the July 30th public meeting. There was a memo in your materials, as well as public comments and testimonies, and Hei Kyung Yang is here to present.
Hello, Hei Kyung.
Commissioners, hi, good morning, good afternoon, almost there. Okay. All right, so good afternoon. My team and I are back here to share some follow-up responses to some of the questions and comments we heard at pre-hearing and public hearing. So as a reminder, the city is proposing a series of land use actions in the Long Island City neighborhood to support and facilitate the implementation of goals and objectives of 1LIC, a neighborhood plan that is subject of a community planning process to help define and implement a long-term vision for Long Island City. As proposed, the Long Island City Neighborhood Plan is projected to create close to 14,700 new homes, of which approximately 4,300 will be permanently income restricted and rent regulated. The plan would also create nearly 3.5 million square feet of new floor area for commercial and community facility uses, and allow space to support approximately 14,400 new jobs in an area with many transit options that connect the neighborhood to essential services and employment opportunities. During the pre-hearing and public hearing, we heard questions and comments on the topic of affordable housing, publicly owned sites, resiliency, engagement, arts and culture, and business displacement. Your follow-up memo should reflect some of these in detail. On affordable housing and publicly owned sites, affordability levels and unit mix breakdowns are not yet determined for the 320 100% affordable housing site at 44-59 45th Avenue. Prior to releasing any request for proposal, HPD will have an engagement process with the council member and community to determine the desired affordability levels for the site. On funding, HPD's Partners in Preservation program is funded solely by city tax levies, so it's not impacted by federal funding. In general, HPD's tenant support programs do not rely on federal funding and so would be minimally impacted by federal cuts. The city is working closely with the community and Councilmember 1 on determining the future of 44-36 Vernon Boulevard and its adjacent waterfront site. Throughout public engagement, the city has consistently heard strong community interest in a diverse mix of uses, including housing, open space, and non-residential community facilities on these sites. An RFI process is currently in place to collect interest of the programming on the Vernon building site. In a later time, further engagement and coordination with public stakeholders will continue to occur to determine the city-owned site's future, including the desire for 100% affordable housing on city-owned sites. As our colleague at EDC noted at the pre-hearing, the city is mindful of the costs associated with transforming these sites and preparing them for development, including relocation of existing city operations, environmental remediation, and critical infrastructure improvements. On resilience and strategies, the WAP proposes to use new open space soft shorelines, and elevated shore public walkways to address flooding caused by sea level rise and lower level coastal storm events. Doing so will help to address the extent of coastal flooding as seen through the 2100s projections on the flood hazard mapper. The WAP is part of waterfront zoning, which is only applicable to waterfront blocks or lots with boundary coincident with or seaward of shoreline or abutting a park along the waterfront. As such, the boundaries of the waterfront access plan and requirements for the WAP cannot be exceeded inland of waterfront blocks. While there are limits to the extent of waterfront zoning, the city promotes flood resiliency in other critical ways. For instance, flood resilient construction requirements as laid out in Appendix G of the New York City Building Code are applicable here to new and improved structures within the floodplain. These standards exceed those of FEMA and are intended to help sites withstand storm surge. Additionally, to increase industrial resiliency on a citywide basis, recommendations from City Planning's Resilient Industrial Report have already been implemented by the Zoning for Coastal Flood Resiliency Text Amendment and the rulemaking by the Department of Environmental Protection. City Planning Zoning for Coastal Flood Resilience Text Amendment of 2019 encourages flood protection in commercial and industrial buildings with floor area exemptions and flexibility in the measurement of building heights to accommodate flood-proofing measures. Safeguards regarding hazard materials lie outside the purview of city planning per DP's regulations. The storing and processing of water, reactive chemicals, or any chemicals that may become flammable, explosive, or pose other environmental danger in case of flooding are prohibited in the floodplain. The city has also taken important steps to address stormwater flooding on a citywide basis. The Unified Stormwater Rule requires redeveloped sites above 20,000 square feet to file stormwater permits before they can obtain their COO. It aims to reduce stormwater runoff and improve water quality by requiring a retention-first approach, prioritizing green infrastructure solutions like rain gardens and green roofs. The stormwater ensures new development plays an active role in reducing stormwater flooding. On comments about engagement, we heard from public hearing. Throughout the public engagement process for One LIC Neighborhood Plan, DCP made concerted efforts to engage with NYCHA's Queensbridge residents. We worked the Tenants Association and Council Members Office to flyer and promote engagement events and pamphlets on the planning work. 3 focus area meetings were held at Queensbridge houses with topics that focused on climate resiliency, housing, and economic development. We also held a town hall there. We've held and continue to table at NYCHA's events to confirm and reconfirm concerns raised by the residents, and I'll bring this information to the city and the electeds who will look to include commitments for capital investments for NYCHA throughout the neighborhood plan's ULURP process. We've also engaged with several of the public members that spoke at the public hearings, such as the Western Queens Community Land Trust, Hunters Point Community Coalition, and Long Island Cities Coalition over the course of many months throughout the neighborhood planning process. The department is aligned with the coalition's visions for the LIC waterfront, mainly with regards to waterfront access, continuous accessible open space between Queensbridge Park and Gantry Plaza State Park, soft shorelines, and resilient solutions. The arts and culture are recognized as essential to the Long Island City community. The zoning proposal includes 2 components to support public art and gathering spaces within the district. First, under the proposed WAP, developers opting for floor area bonus for active recreational space may select from a defined list of amenities, including cultural and community-oriented spaces, such as open-air amphitheater, performance spaces, and gathering lawns. Second, the proposal encourages the inclusion of public art within the waterfront public access areas. These elements directly respond to the feedback gathered during 2 community engagement sessions focused on shaping the waterfront vision. Separately, under the City of Yas Zoning for Economic Opportunity, arts and manufacturing uses have been consolidated into a single use group, enabling arts and cultural institutions to locate throughout the project area as of right. The proposal retains all M districts, meaning arts and cultural uses will continue to be permitted without requiring specialized zoning. Outside of zoning, Department of Cultural Affairs launched the Create in Place initiative, offering tailored support to arts and culture institutions citywide. This includes an interagency task force, a resource hub, a creative space network, reconnecting organizations with underutilized space, and case support to navigate city requirements or assist with space transitions. And lastly, on business displacement. The DIS identifies no significant adverse impacts with respect to or indirect business displacement. There are currently approximately 4,700 jobs in the study area, 41% of which are industrial and the remaining manufacturing. Overall, manufacturing employment within the study area and citywide has declined in recent decades. The exception in this decline is in food manufacturing, where the city recorded modest job gains over the past 20 years. Citywide, gains have occurred in cultural production, construction, transportation, and warehousing. A small but growing industry of makers, cultural, and artisanal food production have appeared in the study area in recent years. In interviews with practitioners, they referenced the appeal of large nearby consumer base and ease of access via transit. This rezoning aims to maintain industrial uses by mapping M districts on their own, allowing only industrial and commercial uses across much of the study area. The new M1 growth district have been mapped in the IBZ in an effort to maintain the commercial and industrial uses, as well as trigger the development of modern industrial spaces to attract tenants in this attractive and growing mixed-use neighborhood. Additionally, DCP has been working closely with Long Island City Partnership, an industrial business service provider who works with the Department of Small Business Services, and to connect LIC businesses to resources, including grants. DCP is also working with SBS and EDC on citywide industrial plan, exploring ways to maintain and grow industrial citywide. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Hye Kyung. Appreciate that update. Let me see if there are any questions for you. Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the detailed response, the last memo, but also the one before that. I really appreciate that. It's very helpful. Just two quick follow-ups. One is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the memo clarifies that the impact of the proposed infrastructure on flooding hasn't been modeled. You are following the 2100 projections in terms of defining how to elevate and how much to elevate within the waterfront blocks, or in relation to the waterfront blocks. The rest of the study area, you're relying on Appendix G. The spirit of my comment is that I don't think that Appendix G is going to be enough. I mean, if this area is evacuated, you know, and let's say these buildings are impacted, we're gonna have to rebuild them. And I wonder, you know, what are the mitigation strategies that you can do in addition to what's the bare minimum, the minimum requirement, to make sure that these investments are, you know, long-lasting? Otherwise, we're going to be building new structures in places where most likely we're going to have to rebuild, and so it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so that's the spirit of the question, I guess. Thank you for clarifying also that the waterfront access plan restricts you. There are constraints in terms of where this applies. I was offering the idea of expanding the blue line on the map to encompass some of these other places that are highly vulnerable and were impacted by Sandy. So thanks for clarifying the constraint in which you're operating. I guess the question is, what else do you think the city can do in the areas that are also very vulnerable outside the blue line here, which is the waterfront blocks, you know, where the waterfront access plan is going to be effective? Otherwise, you know, we're really increasing residential density without meaningful infrastructure improvements to mitigate flooding. Another question is storm surge, but let's stop there and see, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Emily. Yep.
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you for those questions. And so, yes, you're correct that with the WAP, we're using a very particular tool that we have at our disposal in a relatively geographically, specific part of the study area. One thing I do want to highlight is that the city now has the Bureau of Coastal Resilience, which was established in 2023, and who we have been communicating with throughout the duration of the study. You know, coastal protection planning on a large scale that can take portions of this neighborhood out of the floodplain or include deployable elements is extremely difficult. And so the Bureau has been charged with that really difficult task of coordinating the planning, implementation, and operation of coastal protection systems. So we're continuing to work very closely with them and to develop these long-term strategies for that kind of next generation of coastal protection in the city. I think there are critical components of the waterfront access plan that will play a very large role here, such as maintaining that open space on the water's edge. So that is what I can kind of contribute to longer term.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I don't disagree with you. I think that there's an important and necessary contribution. It's just that it's just applying to a very small portion of the area, the rezoning. So anything that you can do to anticipate what you've pointed out is something that is going to be done, by another agency later, who knows when, is a concern that I have. I have another question, not on resiliency. Thank you so much for that, but on the industrial retention. And thank you again for the response. I just have a question. So you mentioned the citywide industrial plan, and we haven't been updated on that. And I'm wondering if there's anything that the department can share with us in terms of what are the strategies or how it is expected that the plan is going to be addressing potential displacement here, although not a significant adverse impact per the DEIS.
Yeah, Karen?
Hi, Commissioner. Thank you for that question. Let's just say on the overall citywide industrial plan, we are happy to do an update offline. As I think but to make sure, the citywide industrial plan is really looking at a citywide context. So we are not looking at we're not mimicking the efforts of a neighborhood plan or making any particular determinations in that effort about potential business displacement in Long Island City or any neighborhood. What we're doing is per the legislation that required that report, looking at the sort of broader long-term needs of industry in the city and thinking about how we have a more rational citywide framework for thinking about industrial preservation, growth in the context of all of our other planning challenges. So we're really looking at, how are businesses innovating in the city? What are the needs for real estate in the city? How do we think about climate resilience in the industrial context citywide? How do we think about public realm challenges, right? Some of these larger, broader themes. So let us come back to you on another occasion to talk about those, but know that we are not mimicking the work of this plan there. We are learning and thinking about them as really nested opportunities. And I do want to stress what Hank Young mentioned before, that the DEIS here, this rezoning is not making any projections about particular business displacement. And part of that reason is, one, the existing context that we've seen in the area, that it has been losing industrial jobs in this context area, even as the industrial profile of other parts of Long Island City have been much stronger, right? We've really seen a shift in the core of Long Island City to a much stronger commercial and diversified context that this rezoning area has really been losing out on, and we think in part because of the zoning constraints that are on it, but a shift where industry has been really strong into the more Borden Avenue side where there are larger industrial sites, better transportation access, a number of things that we think are really contributing to a more conducive industrial environment in other sections. So to the extent that the citywide plan is thinking about those trade-offs between areas that may be seeing a more improved industrial economy and areas that are really losing out and might benefit by more diversification, those lessons are closely aligned here.
Thank you. Yes, I would love to have a chance to hear where you're at with the plan, and I appreciate the clarification that you make. In the response that we got to the comments, the plan is referenced specifically in terms of potential implications for this study area. So that's why I'm asking. But to your point, what I'm expecting or what I would love to see is how does the general citywide framework that you described apply to the industrial business zones? And then sort of like try to understand, what are the implications for the proposal that is under review. But I appreciate that, and would love that opportunity to understand where you're at and what you're looking at.
I think as Hank Young said, we've also really, as we've been experimenting with these tools that we've created in City of Yes and thinking about that prioritization and hierarchy a lot here, right? Where are the areas that, we have large sites, they're extremely transit
or extremely infrastructure strong, right by highway ramps, have existing marine, access, places where we are still seeing the opportunities for very large, and very strong industrial investments, but also where those uses really need to be, that are heavy and really need to be segregated, versus areas where we're seeing more of that mixed opportunity, where what we're trying to encourage is industrial to grow alongside other kinds of job opportunities. And that's not that different than what we were thinking about in Atlantic Avenue as well. I think we're thinking about those on a citywide basis as well. To how do we think about the areas that need segregation versus more mixing, and where do we sort of balance our different industrial prioritizations on that basis?
Thank you. Is there time for another additional question?
One more.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the question actually connects the two questions in a way, but it's more sort of like building on the discussion about the opportunities associated with the waterfront revitalization program policies here. And, specifically, I wonder how to fully address the requirements of the WRP here. There is the need to establish infrastructure improvements to address coastal inundation in some of the industrial areas that are outside of the waterfront waterfront access plan. Mm-hmm. And so going back to the previous discussion, but also to your point, Carolyn, addressing the potential for industrial development here, I wonder whether the WRP, is actually could be a useful route to find how to leverage, the constraints that you're talking about in terms of what you're creating on the waterfront blocks, but what's needed elsewhere. And specifically in the southern part, where you're outside of the waterfront access plan, but in the into the more industrial core, where these businesses, as you pointed out, may be already struggling, but could definitely benefit from a more, renewed infrastructure to improve the sustainability and the resiliency of their measures. Thanks for what you outlined in terms of the chemicals. But the problem is that, what are they supposed to do is kind of like my question.
I think,
I am so lucky. Go ahead. On the WRP, I'd be happy to revisit, take a look at what was written in the policies, have a discussion with the team, and get back to you.
Yes. And Commissioner, thank you for the question again. I'll just add, I think much like with residential, when we're seeing new construction investments under the Appendix G rules, it's my understanding that when for new industrial space, and a good example would be like the Borden complex that's gone up in the Long Island City area right now. When we're seeing that happen, that the resilient profile of buildings in the the wet flood proofing that's happening on the ground floor is done to a very high standard. The challenge is, I think with that is that we're seeing such a limited market for new construction industrial space in the city because of the challenges associated with that much more of the challenge for industrial businesses is with existing old stock, or completely open, right? That we're, either full surface use, of an open use, or a ground floor industrial use that's very hard to elevate under existing conditions. So I think one of the strongest tools we have here in this rezoning is creating additional development potential that can allow for redevelopment of some of these sites in a way that might create some new industrial space that can be built to flood standards. Now, there are other tools. The IDA is funding some resiliency improvements. There's some bits around the edges, but ultimately, to me, the largest challenge is creating, an investment incentive to give a business the resources associated with elevation, enclosure, or reconstruction in a way that meets those standards. There's very few other tools we have if what you need to do is spend money to put hazardous chemicals in a new location that's out of the floodplain.
Thank you. No, this is very useful. I really appreciate it. Just one last thought on that is, I understand that, you're in your approach, you're really trying to make these incentives work, and that you're designing them in ways that the public or the private sector can take advantage of them. The problem is that if we 100% rely on them, we see what's going on right now with the ultra-low energy building designation. You know, how much time, how much resources were spent in terms of creating something that, quite honestly, people should be dying to implement. I love that. But we haven't seen them being used. And in conversations when we try to explore what's going on, they almost sound irrelevant. And so
I wouldn't say that we haven't seen anyone using it. I think there are some really good cases of new construction and of resilient building in the industrial areas in the city. And I think you probably have many examples at hand, but happy to offline about some more if that's useful. But I think I take your point that we're not seeing them at scale, right? And I think it is, getting to this point, fundamentally, when we're asking private industry, we're trying to enable private industry to make an investment. The incentive for them to do so has to be there. We can help, we can create levers that increase that potential, but it is something we're asking private business to do. I think for fear that if we require it, then, and a business still can't do it, that we're then putting that business out of business. So it is a very fine line here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, team. Any other questions for Ye Kian and her team?
Sorry, no, it's been a long one. Just an update on the mitigation strategies for the EIS, and there's still some significant questions there around schools and open space in particular. I don't know if there's an update there.
There's no update because we're still working on it. I remember your question from last time, and we'll follow up if we have updates prior to the release memo. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Madam Secretary, any other items?
No other items today, Vice Chair.
All righty. That means we are adjourned until Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. The time is 4:55 p.m.